Hey guys, Magnus Robert here, and I've always been thinking what new ideas can I come up with for these tiers? And I've just it occurred to me today. I've never really talked about my favorite characters and ranking them from my personal favorite, and sort of discussing why I personally enjoy certain characters. Now, I know I've kind of ranked the characters in the past where I sort of did it based on their arcs, and I kind of tried to preface that at the start of the video. A lot of this was based on how well written their arc in the show was, so that's why I had characters like Herschel above characters like Daryl, and I think a lot of people miss the point of that. The reason why I have Herschel above Daryl is because Daryl's a character has been alive for so many seasons, so of course he's going to have some hiccups here and there, because I think some of Daryl's arc in season 8 was kind of poor, and some of his arc in the Daryl Dixon show I just didn't get, or at least the first season I think was a bit wacky for me, and I think in season 11 and 10 I felt like Daryl got a bit boring for me, so that's why Daryl was kind of ranked quite low, and I think people miss the purpose of that. I love Daryl, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Anyway, I thought I'm just going to rank them based on my personal opinion. The writing's going to kind of come into this, and some of it's going to overlap, of course, but I just kind of want to, I thought this, splitting the tier up like this would make it a bit more easy. And I've also decided to add, as some people suggested, some more of the spin-off characters. Now, I'm not doing Thea. I'm not adding any Fear the Walking Dead spin-off characters to this tier list, because I just feel like that is a whole other animal, and I've not added any I've not added any whatchamacallit, what do you call that show, Tales of the Walking Dead either, or World Beyond. I'm just strictly doing the shows that came after the main show. So we've obviously got Dead City, Ones Who Live, and the Daryl Dixon series. And spoilers for episode 4 of Daryl Dixon, I just want to say that right now. Do not watch, because I will be discussing episode 4 and how it annoyed me. So there'll be probably a review when episode 5 comes out. I'll probably do a combined review of both episodes. Don't spoil episode 5 and 6 in the comments, though, please. I know the episodes leaked and most people will watch them. I have watched them, but I want to watch them with the so I can actually understand the fucking English. Understand the French. Anyway, let's get into it. My personal characters, ranking them in my so obviously this is my opinion. Your opinion might be different, and that's cool. Listen, we all have our different preferences. We all prefer different characters, and that's okay. At the end of the day, this is one big community. We can all love each other and give each other hugs and pat each other on the back. I'm never going to make everyone happy with this tier list. It's just it's impossible for me to do unless I was to put everyone in S. And even if I put everyone in S, someone would be like, that character's garbage. How dare you? How could you put them on the same level as Ricky Dicky Doo Grimes? So whatever I do, it's not going to satisfy anyone. So everyone. So listen, if you don't like my opinions, and if it triggers you that much, you can fuck off. Anyway, no, I'm joking. No, but don't let it trigger you. It's cool. So let's get into it. Oh, we're going to kind of pick one at random. Boom. Martin. Oh, great. So, yeah. Oh, I should probably explain my tiers. So, I got Love Them. This is for a character that, for the most part, all round, I love this character. Great is it's a great character. Maybe not my favorite. My not ultimate favorite, but it's a great character all round. Great, but got boring for me. This is for characters who, have probably been around for a while. I liked them at one point, and I thought they were really great. And I still think they're a great character. Don't get me wrong. But parts of them get boring for me. Solid for the most part is, like you said, meh, 50-50. I like them, I hate them. I kind of like most of them, but there's parts of them I hate. Good, but minor. Just don't care for. Kind of bad. Kind of trash. So, Martin, I think is probably just good but minor. I think he's a good mini little villain for Tyrese and for the cannibals, and yeah, I liked him for the most part. Maybe they could have done a bit more with him. I'm not sure, but whatever. That's cool. Another random one. Boom. We've got Guillermo. Guillermo, I actually like the little twist they do. I think he's a good character, but he's a minor character, so I can't really put him any higher. Yeah, I think the little juxtapose, they kind of set up the Vatos gang as being the big bad of the episode. It turns out they're actually really decent dudes, and then boom, flashback to, not flashback, or boom, cut to the Atlanta camp, and the zombies are the real threat, of course, and the camp's getting attacked. So yeah, I like Guillermo. He's a really noble dude, and it's a shame we never get to see him again. Obviously, he dies in the deleted scene that was cut from season 2, and obviously it was confirmed that he and his group had died. So it's a shame that we never got to see him again. But I think for that one episode, he was pretty solid. Can't complain. Boom, another one. We've got Cole. I just don't care for. I don't think he's bad. He's a character I have no care for at all. Martinez. Martinez. I was gonna say, is that Martinez? Yeah, Martinez. I think Martinez is solid for the most part. I don't think I wouldn't put him good but minor, because I think he kind of was a little bit step above a minor character, because he was around for a while. And I think he kind of balanced out the governor. You know, he was like that right-hand man for the governor. You know, that's his purpose. He's like an ally to the governor. That's his purpose as a character. And I think the way he met his end as well, I think for the most part I liked how they sort of brought it back. He starts by abandoning the governor, and he ends that episode by welcoming the governor back, or at least finding him in the pit. And then that kind of is to his own detriment. The fact that Martinez was able to forgive the governor was probably, his mortal mistake, basically. And I think overall Martinez was a pretty solid character for the most part. Let's go. Boom. We've got Simon. Simon is a meh 50-50 for me, and I'll explain why. I like the actor. I think Stephen Ogg's great. However, Stephen Ogg is a one-trick pony. He plays one character, and that's fucking Trevor Phillips. And I know the actor gets really mad when people compare him to Trevor Phillips, but that's every fucking character he plays. It's just crazy guy, okay? That's the character. He is like Steven Seagal, or fucking, I don't know, who else is a good example of this? Nick Cage, I guess. He's one of those actors who does get typecast, and I feel bad for him in that sense. And I wish maybe I could see a bit more of his range as an actor. But I don't know why else he's been in aside from Better Call Saul. But I think there's something else I saw him in as well. I forget what it's called though. Yeah, Stephen Ogg I like as an actor. I just feel like a character for me at first was kind of cool. It's like, oh, it's Negan's lieutenant. I personally don't like the mutiny story. I think it kind of takes away from the conflict with the Saviors. I just wish it was cut, really. And I wish Simon was just killed by, like, Rick and co. I think that would have been better, in my opinion. The mutiny story felt like it was kind of, in the whole thing that they posed Simon to execute all the scavengers. It's a good way to get rid of the scavengers, because they were fucking boring. But, like, the problem with that is, like, okay, so now Simon is more evil than Negan. And then also in a previous scene, they scapegoat, like, the whole killing of the Oceanside. They say, oh, that was actually Simon who did that. And it felt like they were trying to kind of set up a bigger bad almost, and Negan took him out, so we would have more sympathy for Negan, I guess. But the problem is I just feel like it kind of takes away from Negan as a villain. That's my problem with Simon, is I think because he's more evil, and, inadvertently, they've kind of retconned quite a bit. If you actually listen, so this is how the Saviors were established. Simon and a bunch of other people were at the sanctuary, and they were doing the whole enslaving of the communities. Negan didn't come up with that idea. Simon and his group did. Now, this other person was in charge of this group, not Simon, someone else, another man. And then Negan came along and killed said the leader of the sanctuary, and took over as the kingpin, as the savior. And he set up the worker system with the points and all that, and he kind of made the whole Negan cult, right? It was him who did that. But he allowed Simon to stay on as a right-hand man, even knowing that Simon killed all the Oceanside boys and men. But the problem with this is, so Simon kind of created the Saviors. Negan didn't create the Saviors. Negan didn't found the Sanctuary. Negan didn't come up with the system of enslaving communities. That's what we've done. We've taken away from Negan as a villain. And this is my sort of problem with Negan as well. Maybe we'll do Negan here too. I fucking love Negan. Negan was great for me, but he got boring. And that's where I'll put him there. Because of this reason, I feel like they took away from him as a villain, and they made him into a fucking pussy. And it really annoys me. Like, he fucking crying over Carl. Why? Why is he crying over Carl? It makes no sense. He was going to kill Carl. He literally was going to kill Carl in the season 7 finale. And it's like, it's only been a week. It's been a fucking week. Carl's like, that happened a week ago, by the way, because season 7 and 8 take place on like a 2-week period. So like a week ago, Negan was gonna kill Carl. Then he finds out Carl died from a fucking walker bite, and he's crying. What? It makes no sense. And this is why I say they butchered Negan. I think season 8 of The Walking Dead is fucking atrocious. It's such a terrible season. They have all these weird ass fucking close-up shots, these over dramatic fucking moments, and yeah, like I said, they take away from Negan. They give it to Simon, which sort of, I like Simon at first, but he kind of annoys me. And then Negan, moving on to Negan. Negan was great in season 6. His intro, brilliant. Season 7, I fucking love Negan. I think he was great from start to finish. Although season 7 is a bit of a wonky season, I think one of the highlights of that season is Negan. Season 8 is where they sort of start to butcher Negan a little bit, and I was okay for the most part with it. I get, like, we need to make him a little less evil, but then I think all the problems of what they did in season 8 kind of comes over into season 9 and 10, where now, instead of Negan just going off to, you know, kill Alpha for his own gain, he is released by Carol under the idea of a deal. So in the comics, Negan he gets released by this Brandon kid, because this Brandon kid is mad at Rick, and basically he wants to like join the Whisperers to help them so they can kill Rick and all that. And Negan's like, oh cool, yeah, sure kid, let's go. And then he fucking murders the child, right? And he goes to the Whisperers on his own plan. He befriends Alpha, he manages to lull her in a false sense of security, and then he kills her, and he brings her head to Rick to be like, look what I did for you, Rick, there you go, right? That's how Negan is in the comics, but in the show, he's got no agency. It's like, oh, Carol released him, by the way, and then also she goes back on her deal, where he's like left in a fucking cabin instead. Like, it annoys me. And also, like, Negan, I like Negan saving Judith, that's cool, but then they sort of equate that with like, oh, well, Negan would never kill children. Motherfucker, he was gonna kill Carl. And the problem is like, this isn't just like lazy writing. It's not just like the writing. It's also the fact that the show and the fans fucking buy into it. Like, the showrunners talk about it. Like, Negan never killed children. What do you mean? He was gonna kill Carl. And he also calls Carl a kid. So it's not even like he sees Carl as an adult. So that really annoys me, and it's fucking, I get gaslit by the fucking fandom. It's insane. And I see people saying like, oh, he was bluffing, he wasn't gonna kill Carl. He was gonna kill Carl. You haven't watched the scene properly. It's like the fucking guy the other day in the comment section was telling me that the governor killed Axel with his Beretta, not his fucking AUG. I was like, wait, what? No, wait, what are you on about? I had to go back. Yeah, fuck me, the fans are crazy. You guys are crazy. Yeah. So all that being said, I know I'm kind of rambling here. Negan gets boring for me because they take his agency away, and they take his villainy away, and they turn him into a shell of his former self. I fucking hate, well, I don't hate, but I dislike, I don't agree with all of the things they did with Negan. Man, listen, Negan in Dead City, honestly, he's getting up here. I like what they're doing with Negan in Dead City. The fucking knock knock, you know, when he putting the guy through the fucking window, that was cool as shit. Negan in season 11 was okay as well. I think for the most, I like how they utilized him. I think that was interesting. Although, to be honest, I hate the Negan and Maggie stuff. Why would you ever put these two characters together? It's a conflict you can never fucking resolve. Like, the only way you resolve this is if, like, Maggie gets Annie killed and the fucking child killed, right? Because if Maggie does something worse than what Negan did to Glenn, then maybe you can start to maybe get them to have a more of an understanding, or at least like they tolerate each other at this point. But even that, it wouldn't make sense to me. It's like two of the worst characters you'd ever put together, because this is the problem in the comics. They just never speak. After Maggie gets over it and she says, oh, I'm not going to kill you because Negan's already dead, they just never fucking speak to each other ever again. They never meet each other again. Negan is exiled, and that's it. And that's what they should have done in the show. Why are you putting these two characters together when you can't fucking resolve this? There's just no way to resolve it. Yeah. And also, on that note, we'll do Maggie. Where the fuck is Maggie Green? So Maggie, for me, is the same. She was great, but she gets fucking boring. Okay? I loved Maggie from seasons 1 to season 8. I thought Maggie was fucking awesome in season 8. And also the start of season 9. That was great too. I liked the resolution of the Negan shit. Great, cool. And then season 10 comes along, and now she has a fucking stink eye on Negan again. Well, you already resolved that conflict, and that's what really annoys me about this. It makes sense as to why Maggie would not forgive Negan. I understand that. I get the logic. But then don't have a scene where she says, oh, I'm not going to kill you, Negan, because Negan's already dead. And now people will say, well, she's not, if Negan was in a cell, it would be fine. It's the fact he's free and walking about. Okay, well, why doesn't she just demand he gets exiled then? She never at one point does it. She then tries to kill him again. And she basically admits that she brought him on that mission with the Reapers to kill him. So she hasn't forgiven him. It's not about putting him back in a cell. Because if she really believes the old Negan is dead, then why didn't she... And then people say, well, it's because he helped burn the hilltop. But we know why he helped burn the hilltop. Because it was actually Carol's fault. Because she, like, this is my thing. This is what really annoys me. They forget shit. They actually forget shit. It wasn't like Negan walked out. Carol let him out. So why is Maggie mad at Negan for burning the hilltop? She should be mad at Carol equally. But she doesn't have one scene where she's mad at Carol. And this is what pisses me off, man. They forget about shit. The later seasons of the show are way like less thought out, and this is my problem. Do you know what the great example of this is? In season 4, Rick gives Carol a watch. Rick gives Carol a watch. Rick gives Sam a watch, his watch, and then in return, Carol gives Rick her watch when he outcasts Carol. And later in season 5, episode 1, Carol finds Rick's watch in Terminus, because obviously Sam went to Terminus, and she takes his watch back, and then she gives him his watch back, and Rick gives him her watch back. No, fuck, he gives her watch back, but she says to keep it because it was Ed bought it for her, right? Like, small little details like that, I fucking love, right? You never find that shit in season 11, or season 10, or season 9, and it's infuriating for me. Like, the whole thing, like, Negan killed, was sent by Carol, was, like, for a stupid fucking twist, and, I hate that shit. Anyway, sorry, I was talking about Maggie, fucking me. Yeah, so Maggie from season 1 to 8, I loved, and then... Maggie season 9, I loved. Season 10, she comes back. She's annoying because she's trying to kill Negan or whatever. At the end. No, sorry. This is season 11 I'm talking about, not season 10. I'm getting my seasons mixed up. She comes back at the end of season 10. She's fine in season 10, I suppose. Season 11, yeah, that's where she gets annoying. And then we have the stuff with Pamela. I just don't know what direction we're going at. I like how Maggie's defiant. She just wants to live in the hilltop, even though the hilltop is a fucking wreckage. But whatevers. I like stuff with her. It's all the stuff in Dead City, which I fucking hate. I hate Maggie in Dead City. She's just not interesting. They made her fucking boring. And it's because they've put her with Negan. Like, don't put these two characters together. You can't make a good spin-off show. Dead City was dreadful. It honestly was. I've rewatched like parts of it recently, and I fucking stand by it. It was kind of dreadful, alright? There was some good moments here and there. For the most part, it was kind of shit. I like the Negan stuff. Knock, knock, that all stuff was fucking awesome. That was fire. I like that stuff. But some of Dead City was fucking awful, okay, man. It was fucking dreadful. Let's do... Fuck, sorry, I ranted a bit there. But yeah, overall, I liked Maggie. I liked Negan. They were great at one point, but they got boring for me. Let's go for... Boom. Natanya. Oh my god. Natanya is kind of bad. Not trash, but I just don't like the Oceanside story, and I think the entire Oceanside story could have been cut, to be honest. Speaking of, let's do... Listen, she's kind of hot, but I just don't care for the character. Who else have we got? That's Cindy, by the way. She's going in there. Just don't care for... Sorry, I know there's people who listen. I keep forgetting about this. So, who we got? We got Cal. Let's go for Cal. Cal is... I just don't care for. He's not even going to good... Maybe good, but minor, I guess. I don't care that much for him, though, to be honest. Who have we got? Rosita. Okay, Rosita's an interesting one. I think Rosita, for me, for the most part, is great. I really like her character, and I think... If you were to ask me before I did my big 2-hour character profile on Rosita, I probably would have put her in solid for the most part. But actually, I think I changed my mind. I think she's a pretty great character. Now, her arc is, like, very subtle, but I think she changes, like, emotion. Like, if you watch her in the earlier seasons, she's kind of, like, very outspoken, and she's very, like, what's the word? In your face, you know, and she has opinionated, and she kind of mellows out a little bit into the late season, and then she has Coco and all that, and I think she, like, really, like, in her own way becomes, like, a very integral part of the show, and obviously the group. But yeah, I really like her character for the most part, and I think the way that she went out was good too. I think that was probably it was the right move to kill someone off her, like, you know, at her size in the finale. But maybe I would have preferred a bigger death, really. But yeah, I think for the most part, Rosita's a pretty great character. I like her. Okay, let's go for Tyrese. Tyrese is, I think, solid for the most part. I'm so like 50-50 on his death, because part of me loves his death, but part of me really hates it because it kind of comes out of nowhere, and it feels like we didn't do anything with Tyrese for most of this season, aside from the stuff with him and Martin, and now we're killing him off, and it felt a bit weird. But I also kind of thought his death was, in a way, kind of beautiful, and I sort of like the idea of killing a character off, you know, because sometimes, you know, danger does lurk around every corner. Sometimes you get bit, and you can't always amputate and survive. And I just really like the race to try and get into safety. You know, Rick being like, "Hold on, man, hold on," and all that, and his hallucinations and all that. And I really like his final sort of words where he's like, "Turn it off," you know, turn off the radio, just turn off my life. I fucking love that. It's like really dark, and yeah, I don't know. I like his death, but then at the same time, it also, I think, could have been led up to a bit better, I suppose, maybe. And some of the flashbacks and stuff in that episode are a bit cringe. That is like a weird episode. I love that episode and I hate that episode. What's happening and what's going on. But yeah, Tyrese's character, I like how they introduce him a bit later. I think introducing him like in between at the start of season 2 would have been a bit too much with like Herschel's farm on top of that. This was like a good adaptation of Tyrese, I think, as well. You know, we already have Daryl. We've invented Daryl for the show. He's kind of Rick's right-hand man. So we can't really have Tyrese also be a right-hand man. So I think, you know, making him this more sort of gentler soul, you know, this person who's not... He's not like the comic version who's like pent full of rage, and, you know, like in the comic version he like strangles a guy to death and then like mutilates his body after said guy kills his daughter, and that's just another thing as well. Like, he's not a father in the show. They sort of just make him a big brother to his sister. And yeah, I really like Tyrese for the most part. I think he's a good character, but I think the way he went out wasn't as great, and I do feel like making him a pacifist so much was a bit weird, considering we just kind of went through the Herschel pacifist. And before that, I think Tyrese was always like reluctant to kill, that's for sure, but it felt like it was too much. I don't know, maybe it's because it came after Herschel. Actually, no, I think that was probably consistent with his character though, so maybe that's unfair. But yeah, for me, I just think he's a solid for the most part. Let's do Kelly. Kelly, I think is good but minor. I just don't feel like they did enough with Kelly, really. Like, I liked some of the stuff with her, kind of that whole storyline of her going deaf and all that. That was kind of interesting to me, and her like sort of adapting to it. And then it kind of felt like she got to the Commonwealth, she got some hearing aids, and that was it. I was like, oh, that's not great. I feel like Kelly probably should have died. She would have been like a pretty impactful death. I think her and Connie's reunion, like in that Feral episode, was fine. I feel like after that she probably should have gone. She should have died. Yeah, I don't know. Felt like there was nothing really more to do with the character after that, and there really wasn't. She just kind of fades into the background, and you know, she becomes a background character pretty much. She barely does anything after that. Let's go for RJ. RJ Grimes is kind of bad. Like, unironically, it felt like they killed off Carl. And then we went to the next season, and it was like, oh, fuck. We got to have a legacy character. Well, Judah's our legacy character. No. We got to have a boy. Rick has to have a son. He can't have a fucking daughter who isn't even biologically his. It felt like they were like, oh, fuck, we need a biological child for Rick to have. Like, what purpose does RJ actually serve to the story? Fucking no purpose at all. Aside from Rick, like, has a son that he doesn't know about. And I guess that's it, really. But we didn't need RJ. Like, I think it doesn't change the story at all if we just get rid of RJ. If it's just Judith, right? Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the idea of, like, it felt like they throw him in because Rick needs to have a biological son. But, like, why? Like, because the whole point of The Walking Dead is, like, you find your family, right? So what better representation of that is, like, another man's daughter right, who was from his first wife that he's raising as his. Like, Judith doesn't say, Shane's my dad. Judith recognizes Rick as her father, even though Rick was basically barely there for her life, really, because Rick fucked off when she was like 3 years old or like 2 years old or wherever she was. She was like a fucking toddler, basically, and Rick went away, right? But Judith still recognizes Rick as her father, despite that. So I just don't see the point of RJ. It felt, for me, it feels kind of weird. It felt like we needed a biological son because Rick's adopted daughter is not good enough. So, yeah, I don't really like RJ. I don't see the point of him. Maybe in the future, a point will be, maybe I'll change my mind. But so far, and also the actors. I know he's a child, so I don't want to be mean, but the actor cannot act. And it's kind of annoying every time he's in a scene. It really pulls you out of the scene, sadly. Let's go for Henry. Now, I liked Henry. I thought he was solid for the most part. And I know a lot of people hate Henry. And I think the problem is, I understand why, because he is a bit annoying. And I agree with that. He can be a bit whiny. He was a bit annoying. But they decided to adapt the Carl storyline from the Whisperer War, right? Because in the comics, Carl basically starts the Whisperer War because Alpha's daughter Lydia fucks him, takes his virginity, and he's a horny teenager. So he goes after basically this girl who he thinks he loves, right? And I like the fact that later on their relationship doesn't work out, right? It is kind of like funny how he started the war for a girl he doesn't even end up with. But that's besides the point, right? So they decided to adapt that storyline in the show with Henry. Great. Okay, so that's our through line for the Whisperer War. He goes after Lydia. They have their little cute relationship. They sort of start to get together. They have their little moments here and there. She's mad at him at first, but then she understands. Daryl comes to rescue him. I love all that, right? Great. And then they kill Henry off. Why? This is my problem. And then season 10 happens. There's no through line. There's no personal stakes to the Whisperer War. There was in the show because we had Lydia. Obviously, Carl. Sorry, there was in the comics because Carl did all this for Lydia, and because he loves her, or he thinks he loves her, right? And that was the interesting part of the story. Is it was kind of like a Romeo Juliet in a sense, in a weird way, I suppose. But killing Henry off kind of ruins that because Lydia then becomes sort of a redundant character. Lydia becomes fucking boring after that point. I don't care about Lydia. Lydia doesn't work without... It would be like having a show. It'd be like killing Rick off, right? And sticking with Laurie, keep sticking Laurie around. It would be like that. Laurie is not interesting on her own, okay? She just isn't. And that's just not a man and woman thing either. Because it would be the same with I don't fucking know. I'm trying to think of a character, a prominent female character whose spouse isn't as prominent. That's tricky. It'd be okay. Oh, this is a bad example. It'd be like having Carol and Ed, right? And Carol gets interesting, but Ed, let's just say Ed's still alive at this point. I know he dies in season 1. And then killing Carol off and keeping Ed, okay? So it's not just a male-female thing. It's also, it's the prominent character and spouse. And that's the problem with, killing off Henry, is they didn't do... I mean, they could have done more interesting things with Lydia, but they just didn't. And I think the reason why is Lydia has no personal attachment now to the main group. So she kind of has Negan as a little father figure to her. She kind of has Daryl who's an uncle figure to her, but it's not a boyfriend, right? And that would have made it more... That would have made her more interesting. And so for me, killing off Henry was just a massive mistake. Because if you're going to adapt the Carl storyline, you've got to adapt it fully. And that was my problem. They didn't. They decided to chop it, axe it. They killed Carl twice, basically. Axe it. And if you say, well, Henry's annoying, blah, 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 that's fine. Then they shouldn't have adapted the Carl story in the first place. They should have just done something different. But don't adapt the Carl story and then fucking axe it halfway through, because now it's boring to me. I don't fucking care about it anymore. So yeah, Henry was done dirty. I fucking hate Henry's death. In part of me even hates it more than Carl, just because they fucking did it twice. And they did it a second time. Yeah, and I feel like Henry's death doesn't get talked about enough. It's a big fucking terrible fucking mistake the show made. Because season 10 is dreadful. I fucking hate season 10. I think it's probably the second worst season. Maybe. We'll see on my rewatch if that's true. Because I'm ranking all the episodes and working out exactly which one's the worst for me. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I know some people hate Henry, but I don't mind him. Although he's annoying at parts. Merle's a great character. I fucking love him. I love Merle. He goes in the love them category. Just because I like his arc. I think he's a good character. He's complex, right? He's this fucking neo-Nazi racist guy, but he's also like he was abused as a child, and obviously he's a drug addict and all these things. And he really is an evil fucking son of a bitch in season 3. You know, terrible fucking person. But as like Daryl kind of mellows him out a little bit, and he does, you know, his one redeemable quality is he's loyal and he fucking loves his brother, and we all love Daryl, of course. So that's one thing we like about Merle. And then like his sacrifice and all that, I think was great. Could he? I think the only way I would have liked it for them to improve his death would have been if he took out maybe more guys, more notable guys. Maybe if he took out Schumpert, as much as I love Schumpert, or like took out maybe even Martinez. I don't know, as we need Martinez later, I suppose. But if he took out more guys and it felt like a bigger blow, because I mean it was in a sense. But a lot of those guys are like background characters, so it's, do you know what I mean? It's like most fans I don't think noticed. But like Merle takes out like all of the governor's like top militia men, right? All the ones that are remaining, aside like Martinez and Schumpert, and that's why the governor has to use all of his fucking townspeople who turn out to be like useless as militia members. Yeah. So the Merle's sacrifice was like worthy, and I really like what they did with Merle overall. So I love him, and I like how his hallucination in season 2 too. I think that's probably his funniest moment, even though he's not physically there. Let's do Lizzie. Lizzie, for the most part, I think was great as a character. I think it's really sad, and it's really, you know, it is like such a sad fucking storyline, because she is just like, she's obviously like schizophrenic, or she got some sort of mental issue, right? Some sort of mental health problem, where she's hearing voices, right? Oh my god! And then you have like fucking fans be like, "Did Lizzie hear the whisperers? Was actually? Did she know? Did she see the whisperers?" Oh my, so stupid! What a fucking dumbass fan theory. Obviously not. The girl was fucking mentally ill. Like she was feeding rats to zombies and shit. This is like serial killer fucking 101, right? Did she hear the whisperers? Oh fuck me! I hate that stupid fan theory. And the one where they say Morgan said, people wearing dead people's faces. Did Morgan see the whisperers? Oh my god. Those fans should quit the internet. Anyway, yeah. Lizzie, really sad, really fucking gut-wrenching story, and how they sort of set it up was really well done, and how they end it with the look at the flowers, fucking brutal. That episode is and I guess Mika, where the fuck is Mika? That's not Mika. Mika? I think Mika probably is also... Mika's probably just solid for the most part. I don't know. But I think Mika complements Lizzie's story, though. So maybe she is great, too. Yeah, I just really like the fact that we have... Mika is just too innocent, too sweet. Like, she is not built for this world at all. She is basically like a Sophia 2.0. And Carol tries her fucking darndest to make sure that Mika is ready. And I think she is, to an extent, right? She's getting there. But she doesn't expect to be killed by her sister. Like, that's the last thing she expects. Mika, I think, was probably the same vein. They obviously, Mika and Lizzie complement each other's characters, so I think they're both great. I really like that storyline. And yeah, they are minor characters, don't get me wrong. And people will be saying, well, you're putting them the same as Rosita. That fucking storyline was so well done. And you can't have that without those characters. And also, the two actresses who play Lizzie and Mika, they're fucking young, and they do fucking such an amazing job. Especially, what's her name, Brighton something or other, the one who plays Lizzie. Like, she does such a great fucking job. And even the one who plays Mika as well. So yeah, I love that. It's such a gut-wrenching story. It's probably one of my favourite storylines in season 4. Maybe my favourite storyline in the whole show. Not Look at the Flowers. The Grove, I should say. The Grove episode is like... like almost like a 10 out of 10 episode. It's really good. Maybe it's a 9 out of 10. But that episode is fucking heart-wrenching, and I love it. Now we got Frost. I don't care for. Just don't care for Frost. Gavin. I think Gavin was like a meh 50-50. I thought like what they were doing with him was kind of interesting. Like, oh, okay, a savior who's not all bad, and yeah, he's just kind of doing his job and he doesn't really like it. That's interesting. I like that. And then they do nothing with it. He turns out just to be another scumbag, really, because at the end of the day, he doesn't join or help, or he just carries on doing evil shit regardless. You know, you could do evil shit and not like it. It's still evil shit. So, yeah, fuck Gavin. 50-50. I think he's a 50-50 character. I liked parts of his character, but I felt like they didn't really take it anywhere interesting, so whatever. Eric. Eric is good but minor. I mean, there's a few scenes with him and Aaron which I like, and I think they build him up, but I didn't really care that much when he died. Maybe it's because I saw it coming, because I've read the comics, but I didn't care that much for his death. But I think he was good for the most part, regardless. Who else we got? Let's do Leah. Leah was fucking trash, okay? Trash character. Didn't believe the relationship with her and Daryl. Kind of comes out of nowhere. And it's also so, like, vague. Like, I didn't even realize they got together. I was like, did they get together? Because they're, like, watching the sun and stuff. But I don't think there's a scene where they kiss, right? Maybe they're just, like, snuggling and stuff. And it kind of felt like, are they dating then? Or, like, you could have at least thrown, like, a fucking sex scene. I know it was COVID when they filmed it, but, like, I don't know. Like, have Norman Reedus, like, fucking dry hump, like, a fucking styrofoam model or something, and we can pretend it's Leah. And, like, ADR, like, Leah moaning. Do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like, it was like, I didn't even realize they were together. At first, I was like, "Oh, are they together?" I was like, "Maybe." I mean, they're snuggling, they're like watching the fucking eclipse together. What's going on? They're crying. They're being emotional together. Maybe are they? And then it's like, oh, okay, they're together. Fair enough. Then Leah comes back. She's like a fucking idiot. She's like, "Hey, are you on your own, Daryl? You're not with those people?" He's like, "Oh, I was with them for like 5 minutes." And then like, okay, cool. And then Leah gets mad at Pope, kills Pope, and then because Daryl kills her. Anchetta, or whatever that guy was called, another Reaper. Leah's like, "You're killing my family. That's why I killed Pope, because he was killing my family. So I'm not cool with you either. But I'm going to give you 30 seconds to go." But then it's like, oh, we're also going to help try and... then she's helping Brandon to, like, they want to track down and kill Daryl as well. They're trying to find and kill Daryl, and she's straight up ready to kill Daryl as well. So it's like, what the fuck do her feelings lie? And then they bring her back in the most dumb fucking way possible, where it's like, Lance stumbles upon this rando in the woods, and it's like, "Hi, random woman. Do you mind killing Maggie for me?" What? Lance has access to a fucking army. Like, why is he getting this random ass fucking woman living in the woods? All he knows about is just she's like some crazy woman who's been killing his troops and stealing supplies, and he decides to ally with her, and it makes no fucking sense to me. Like, what? Oh, Leah was fucking trash. Honestly, garbage. Terrible character. Fucking hated her. I will stand by that. For me, in my personal opinion. Who else have we got? Jadis. Oh, Jadis is, like, weird. I think she's a meh. She's a 50-50. But I don't know. No, I don't know. I think she's kind of bad. I like parts of her. I think she's fucking funny. I do think she's funny. Oh, this one's so difficult. I don't know. I don't actually know. For me personally, okay, I'm going to put it in the meh, 50-50. Because there's parts of her I do like. I think she's fucking funny. I like it when she's being ruthless. I think Jadis... So Jadis in season 7 is bizarre. One of the most fucking bizarre things they ever did. They bring in, like, these people who live in a dumpster. What? Why? Why do they live in a trash heap? And I understand they're getting CRM supplies, but that still makes no fucking sense as to why they would live in a fucking trash heap. Oh, it's because she was an artist. What? And I like fucking writing, okay? I'm not gonna live in the fucking library. I'm gonna live in somewhere that's fucking secure. So that was weird. And then the fact that she speaks like Yoda, and all of her group are like tall. I don't know if you noticed that, but they hired like really tall actors, and it feels really fucking weird. Like, what is this? Like fucking Star Wars? What's going on? And then they have season 8. They like kill them all off, and Jadis drops the funny speak. She kidnaps Negan and tries to hand him off to the CRM. That all was fucking wacky. What was all that? And then season 9, she kidnaps Gabriel. Is going to hand him to the CRM. She just flip-flops constantly, and that gets fucking annoying fast. And then she fucks off with Rick. Cool. In World Beyond, she's kind of cringe. She's probably the best part of that show, but she's still like ultra like not now. She's like big bad. She's like cool with genocide. And it's like, Jesus Christ. Jadis went from fucking like, caring for Gabriel and being like a little nervous because she's not accepted in Alexandria, to being genocidal. What the fuck did that come from? And then like Ones Who Live, I don't know. Her death's kind of shit. There was some funny scenes with her, I guess, and I get her motivation for like being mad at Rick and all that, and wanting to kill Rick wanting to kill Rick eventually. But yeah, I don't know. Her death was kind of shit. So Jadis for me is like a meh, 50-50. Jesus. I think Jesus was kind of bad. I don't like the adaptation of Jesus. Jesus in season 6 is cool. I like him for the most part. Season 7, he's okay. Season 9, though. Season 8. Ugh. Season 8, they just ruin Jesus. He becomes like a pacifist all of a sudden. Why? Even though like he was quite cool with murdering people before, and also what really annoys me is the fight scene with him and Morgan. I hate the fact he's like defending the saviors and feeding them fucking turnips. I hate all that shit. I hate all that fucking storyline with the captured saviors. That sort of annoys me. It goes on for far too long. And then like Jesus, the stuff at the sanctuary is fine. You know, he gets Daryl, cool, and then he just kind of tags along for the ride for the most part with Rick going to the kingdom, or he helps to introduce them, I suppose. And what else do we have from Negan? And then we have Negan like lecturing Morgan on pacifism in the finale. What? Why? Fuck me. I just hate the fact that they turned this guy into a pacifist for no fucking reason. And apparently it was the actor who asked for it. Which, I mean, why the fuck would you ever listen to an actor's opinion? If you're a writer. Anyway, yeah, in season 9, he's like okay, I guess, and then he fucking dies in a pretty lame way. Yeah, Jesus was kind of bad, in my opinion. There was nothing interesting about his character. He annoyed me too much in season 8, and I just didn't like him. For me, personally. I know some people like Jesus, but whatevs. Who else we got? Michonne. Michonne? I love Michonne, okay? I love her in season 3, where she's pretty edgy, you know, she's all closed off. That stuff's kind of cool. She opens up, awesome. Season 4, I fucking adore Michonne in season 4, and the stuff they do with her, and her dealing with her trauma, with losing her son and all that, and then obviously losing the prison kind of adds to that trauma. Season 5, I like Michonne there, where she kind of is like the angel on Rick's shoulder. She's trying to like balance Rick out. Like, I like the moment where she fucking knocks Rick out when he's talking fucking wacky crazy shit to Alexandria and fucking pulling a gun on them. Yeah, Michonne in season 5 is great. Season 6, we have sort of Michonne, her sort of arc is figuring out what she personally wants, right? Because that's what she speaks to Deanna. And it turns out she wants Ricky Dicky Doodah's Dicky, right? And so she gets that, right? She gets the Ricky Dicky. Anyway, and then obviously we have like, you know, that leads into Michonne being in the lineup. Season 7, it's kind of like she wants to fight, but Rick doesn't want to fight, and so Michonne is getting ass mad at Rick, and then obviously the mid-season finale, Rick decides Michonne was right, yeah, we're gonna fight, and then you have some nice scenes with her and Rick. I mean, season 7 is kind of crash, and then season 8, she basically barely just fuck all, really. Michonne doesn't do much in season 8, but whatever. Season 9, we have Michonne is closed off, obviously, after Rick goes missing and the scars incident with Jocelyn. Michonne is very cold, closed off again. She kind of, not regressed into season 3 Michonne, but she's like sort of regressed to outsiders, I guess. So she's cool with her people, but she's not cool with outsiders in season 9. And then season 10 and season 11, I think Michonne, season 10, she fucks off. She leaves her children to go look for Rick, which I hate. That's like one storyline I kind of dislike. But I think overall, it didn't hurt my view of Michonne. It hurts that episode, and I think it hurts Michonne's exit. But I understand that like the actress wanted to leave and all that, and they had to like find a way. It's annoying, sure, and it does hurt Michonne's character, but it doesn't hurt it enough for me to knock her down a peg. For me personally, it is stupid though, and it's like out of character that she would leave her children to go look for Rick on a fucking hunch on some boots. That's some dumbass shit, okay? That is very dumb. And then The Ones Who Live, I love her. I think they really did her well in The Ones Who Live. Is The Ones Who Live a little bit cringe at times? Sure. I think some like the dialogue, like, we can do anything. Me and you together, we can do anything. That shit is kind of cringe. And that sex scene between Rick and Michonne in episode 3 or 4? 4, maybe. That sex scene is fucking really weirdly drawn out. Very uncomfortable. Anyway, let's go for Michael Mercer. Michael Mercer, for me, is I'm going to say good but minor. I think that's honestly probably fair. They didn't do that much with him, really. There's a few cool scenes with him, and I like the actor. I think the actor really brought the character to life for me, and he's fucking built as well. Like they really chose like someone who put in the work, or his body's probably already like that. Was already like that before the show. But yeah, like they cast the right guy. I feel. I like the stuff with him and Princess. I like him like fighting for the eventually sort of switching sides, but then he gets like caught really easily, and it felt like they didn't really know what to do with him. Then I would have liked maybe a few more scenes of him fighting against the Pamela and her forces. I feel like they could have done more with him really in season 11, but it felt like season 11 was like the first half was devoted to the fucking Reapers pretty much, barely anything with the Commonwealth really. Just a few things here and there. Obviously, it was like a B plot, and then it was like, okay, now in the second half, we're going to devote stuff to the Commonwealth. But they didn't at the same time. They added in like these new communities. Like obviously, you had the Riverbend stuff, and like Toby Carson as a villain, and then the Warden as a villain, and then Lance as a villain, and then Pamela as a villain. And it's like, oh my god, how many fucking villains do we need, right? Or Lance before the Warden, I guess. The Warden was like really weird as well, as a like throwing in another fucking villain. Like we needed another one, and I feel like all of this kind of took away from like Michael Mercer. And I think what they could have done that would have been better is actually doing the rebellion stuff, like finding the rebellion, like Mercer, like actually like organizing like this rebellion to coup the government, basically to coup Pamela. All that could have been interesting. That could have been like the intrigue and the sabotage and the sneaking around. I think they could have done something like that with Mercer and working with the group. I think maybe Mercer takes too long as well to side with Rick. Well, I say Rick's group, Daryl's group, I guess. The coalition, I guess. But I think so he was good for me, but I feel like he was too minor. He was a minor character in a lot of ways, even if I think he might have been a main cast bill for season 11, but I still don't think I still think he was kind of minor. Anyway, let's go for Judith. I think Judith is solid for the most part. I don't think there's anything like stellar they do with Judith, and I think some of it's a bit cringe for me personally, but I like her. I think she's solid. I like how she kind of takes up the mantle of Carl. I think that was probably the right decision. If we have to kill Carl and we have to kill Henry, I guess Judith probably makes up for those two. Not really much more to say. I think she is kind of a minor character, really, but yeah. She's a prop before that, let's be honest. She isn't a character until season 9, so I'm judging her on season 9, 10, and 11. I'm not judging her as a fucking toddler or as a baby. But she was fine. She was solid for the most part. I probably couldn't put her any higher. Who else have we got? Bloody hell, this video's going to be long, isn't it? Probably. Dr. Carson. Harlan Carson. Dr. Harlan Carson, I'm going to put good with minor. I like the stuff of him and Gabriel, that episode. He's a fun character for me. Laura was done kind of dirty, but I think she was solid for the most part. I liked her as like a minor sort of recognizable villain or savior. I think she was funny as well, like some of the scenes with her and Eugene. I know she's a minor character, so maybe I should put her in the good but minor. Nah. Maybe Nah, but at the same time, I think she served her purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like, more so than some of these guys. Maybe I'll just put good but minor. Maybe that's more consistent. But then I guess by the same logic, Martinez is minor. I feel like Laura's probably in more episodes than Martinez as well. Yeah, fuck it. I'll stick with Laura. I'll put her in the solid, but for the most part. So Laura's going in the solid for the most part. Because Martin was in like 3 episodes, right? Gilmero is in 1. Cal is like probably in a fair few, but very minor role. And he's probably, I'd say he's more minor than Laura. I think Laura gets a bit more personality, especially like with the Here's Negan flashback episode. Kelly is a minor character, although she's more prominent than Laura. But I feel like she was minor in the sense that like Laura was never going to be more than what she was, whereas Kelly could have been. So that's kind of like my logic there, I guess, if that makes sense. Let's go for Sasha. Sasha was honestly a great character. I fucking like Sasha. I see a lot of Sasha hate, and I understand why. Because when I first watched the show, I fucking despised Sasha. I thought she was one of the worst characters. I thought she was annoying. I thought she was kind of bitchy. I thought she was kind of like stuck up, and I fucking hated her. That was my honest opinion of Sasha. And then when I rewatched the show, I think as I got older as well, and I think I matured a bit more, and I think I understand Sasha a lot better, and I feel like I empathize with her a lot more. And I think, like, you know, season 3, she is like she is kind of a minor character. She doesn't do much. In season 4, she's ill for like the first half of the season, and it doesn't really get much like characterization until after. And there's stuff with her and Bob, which I really like, because Sasha's like, well, everyone's fucking dead. What's the point? We may as well it's just us three now. It's me, you, and Maggie, Bob. Okay, we gotta survive. And she's like a what's the word? A pessimist, right? Or a pragmatist? I don't know. Pessimist. She's a pessimist. But Bob points out, you're kind of too scared. Like, you're scared to really find out if your brother's alive or dead. Because if he's dead, it's going to hurt more. With not knowing, like, that's easier, right? To you. And Sasha, like, agrees. Like, yeah, that's kind of true. And she's actually, like, really vulnerable. But she puts on this fucking hard shell, this hard exterior. And we get that as well, like obviously season 5, they get captured anyway. Season 5, her and Bob can kind of start to go together, and Sasha kind of begins to open up more. And then she loses Bob, she closes up. And then she loses her brother, and she really closes up. And she's like fucking, her hard exterior is all she has now. And she wants to go through this grief on her own, and she won't let anyone else help her, because this has fucking destroyed her. She's lost the 2 people she was closest to, and she doesn't have any allegiance to that. Like, there's a really great line where Abraham's like, you're amongst friends. She turns to Abraham and she goes, we're not friends. Because, like, to her, this is like some guy she's met like fucking 3 weeks ago, right? 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, whatever it is, or a few months ago, whatever it may be. But like, these aren't her fucking friends. Her friends were like the people that actually, like, you know, like her brother and her boyfriend, right? But then I think she realizes later on that no, these people did care for her, and that's why she ultimately kills herself as well, because she doesn't want her to be used. She doesn't want herself to be used against her people. Her life to be used to hurt others. So she does the baller fucking move and commits Sudoku. All right. So yeah, I fucking love Sasha. I think she's a great character. I'm not putting her in the love them. She's not up there, but I think she's a great character all around. And that's just my opinion. And she didn't stick around long enough to be butchered. Let's go for Tomas. Tomas, I think, was good but minor. You know, he's a minor villain, but he served his purpose well. Yeah, but nothing like to ride home around. I mean, he's just evil guy. He tries to kill Rick. Scott. Scott, I just don't care for. I'm going to say it. I don't care for Scott. They didn't do anything to like really characterize Scott very much. He's a guy, he comes back from a scavenging mission, he gets shot in the leg, he hobbles home, and then he is like the resident background character. Hershel Green, love him. I love Hershel. I love how he's the wisdom. He's like a father figure to Rick. I love all that. I like his pacifism and the fact that he tries to tell Rick, you know, you can put the gun down. You can step back. You don't have to be a leader. You can let the council take over. And he does that. He teaches Rick how to farm and all that. All that stuff's really great. And he's like, you know, says to Rick, you know, some people are too far gone. You know, that woman you found in the woods, she was too far gone. You know, it is what it is. And he kind of tells Rick to sort of, after obviously Rick, or he witnesses Carl kill the kid in the woods, Jody in the woods. You know, Hershel's like, you've got to take a step back. You're going too far gone, right? Because now your boy is doing the same shit that you would do. You need, and so yeah, I think Hershel, all of the stuff, and even like in season 2, I fucking love Hershel because I understand why he thinks these, you know, these things aren't dead and they are sick, because it's his family, and that's an easy thing to believe. You don't want to believe your family is dead if they're moving around, right? So I love Hershel in season 2. I love Hershel in season 3. I love Hershel in season 4. I think he's a fucking brilliant character, and I really love how they bring him back in the Rick hallucinations. Hershel for me is a love them. The Governor. The Governor, I love him. Okay, listen. People like to say the comic governor is better. The comic governor is not better. What the fuck is this stupid ass argument? Okay, I recently like reread the Rise of the Governor novel. I'm gonna read the Fall of the Governor Part 1 and Part 2 as well, but I want to read Road to Woodbury in between. I read those books years ago, and I think I feel like when I read them back in the day, I like skimmed them. But I'm rereading Rise of the Governor, which obviously does cover comic book Governor. The Governor is a sniveling pussy. Okay, so the TV show Governor is really like is they adapt both the Blake brothers, Brian Blake and Philip Blake. And so Philip Blake in the show is basically both Brian and Philip Blake from the novels combined into one character. And I think for that reason, he's superior as a character because he kind of takes the best traits of both those characters. Comic Book Governor is not very interesting to me. He's like a guy who's like a coward, a college-educated coward into music who turns into like a madman. And that's like interesting, but I feel like the show version is a lot more mature, and I really like how they start off. The governor is obviously a bit crazy, or he's a bit psychotic because he like kills the National Guard guys, right? And he has fucking fish, like walker heads and fish tanks. He's a bit crazy, but there's still some sanity left in him. There's still some humanity left in him. He obviously cares for his community. He cares for his people. And he's this charismatic sort of cult leader in a way. And he also, he's got Milton trying to work up a cure for his daughter because he really loves his daughter, right? And he wants to bring his daughter back from being a zombie. All great. He's human. Michonne kills Penny. Fuck. And the governor loses it. And this is where the governor's sort of breaking point is, right? He begins to like slip more and more and more. And then he loses the love of his people. Like he forces them into to be a part of his militia. He says, no more barbecues and picnics. That shit ends now, okay? These people need a harsh reality. And he turns, all of his people turn against him. And once they all turn against him, he sort of loses all care for them and just fucking massacres them. It's a great storyline, okay? And I think that was a great way to end the governor's arc in season 3. You start him as the charismatic cult leader, and you end with him just fucking massacring the cult because they won't listen to him anymore. I fucking love that shit. And then in season 4, they adapt the Rise of the Governor stuff, right? Where in the novel, the governor and his brother find this apartment with these sisters, right? And Philip Blake, who's is the governor's brother. It's confusing because in the show he's called Philip. In the comic he's called Brian, but he also goes by Philip because he kind of steals his brother's identity. It's a confusing fucking mess, okay? But basically, the governor's brother in the novel assaults Grapes, April, who is basically Lily in the show. They do it differently, and obviously in the show, obviously the governor kind of falls in love with her. But they actually do something really interesting where they humanize the governor, where he starts to kind of he adopts like Megan as like his new daughter, right? As his new Penny. And I really like all that. They bring the governor back. They actually make him kind of human again. And then obviously once he realizes that Martinez's camp is not safe, he turns into the governor again until he goes full-fledged back into what he was. He was always too far gone. He was always a monster, and he kills Herschel. Honestly, I fucking love what they did with the governor. I think he's the best villain in my opinion. I think it's a mature as well, and he doesn't overstay his welcome. Yeah. So, my favourite villain, personally. The actor did a great job as well. Really well cast. It was a risky casting because obviously you're casting like a white, tall dude instead of the scrawny kind of half Latino guy. But I think it really worked, and it was a good risk, and it paid off. Jim is good but minor. I like Jim's backstory. It's pretty tragic, but they don't really ultimately do that very much with Jim, really. He just kind of is there and then dies. Cool. Tobin, unironically, solid for the most part. I think he's an elevated background character, that's for sure. Like he has lines and he does stuff, and like he gets with Carol, of course, and he's there with Rick. He has a fair few sort of conversations with Rick, and he kind of is almost like the face of Alexandria. And I think his death was done pretty well too, and it was probably at the right time, killing off a very memorable face or a very recognizable face. So I think, Tobin's solid for the most part. Oh, fuck it. Let's do Abraham. I love Abraham. He's one of my personal favorite characters. I just think he's funny. and I think he doesn't overstay his welcome. And I think I think his arc is really well done as well. We start with Abraham. He's all about finding the cure or helping Eugene get to the fix, and then he loses that's his like only purpose in life, because he was going to kill himself before then. And then of course he finds out it's a lie, and it's all about him trying to find a new purpose, and that new purpose he finds is in Sasha, because he was only ever with Rosita because she was like the only woman there, right? And so he finds his new purpose in Sasha, and also starting a family with Sasha. That was his dream, right? That was his new purpose in life, was to create a family. And then that gets ripped from him in season 7. Honestly, great character, well-rounded, really fucking love him. So I gotta put him there. I gotta give him some love. Ezekiel, I've talked about it before, so I won't go too much into depth. I feel like Ezekiel probably should have died in season 9 instead of Henry. I think that would have been made a good end for Ezekiel's character. I like Ezekiel. I think he's a bit cringe at times in season 7 and season 8. I do think his dramatic campiness is a bit over the top, especially in season 8. I think it really gets bad. And I think like in season 9, 10, 11, he's fine, but there's nothing that kind of goes crazy. Ezekiel's just a 50-50 for me. There's stuff I really like, there's stuff I kind of hate, there's stuff that just kind of bores me. So, yeah. Let's do Amy. Amy is just a good bit minor. I like how they set her up a little bit, make us care for her, like get to know her a little bit, although you can see it coming a mile off, only to kill her off. But yeah, it was okay. Whatever, she was fine. Jimmy, I just don't care for. They didn't do anything with his character. He's just kind of in the background, and then they kill him off. He has a few lines, I guess, and that's it. Oh, I guess Patricia would probably go in the same vein, because they do the same with Patricia. They just sort of have her be there. They give her a few lines here and there, and then they kill her off. And it's like, I don't really give a fuck. T-Dog, I think, was a solid for the most part. Maybe not. The problem is, like, people go crazy about T-Dog, and I just don't understand why. Like, he's a great cult classic character, like a cult fandom character, or he's a great minor character. Like, what was ever great about T-Dog? T-Dog is like, I feel like it's kind of like, maybe I'm being weird, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's kind of like racism in a way, because it's like, oh, he's the token black guy, so we gotta say he's cool, right? They do fuck all with his character. They literally do nothing. In season 1, he gets beaten up. Actually, no, I think the most he does is probably in season 1. In season 1, he's really interesting. Like, he's there, but he's also like really noble, because he's like, even though he's willing to go help the fucking racist cunt who like beat him up, this fucking asshole who wouldn't do the same for him, and T-Dog knows that Merle would not do the same for him. And T-Dog goes to save him. Actually, no, fuck it, yeah, no. T-Dog stays here, just for season 1. Season 2, he cuts his arm, and he goes a bit crazy. I like that scene with him and Dale, that's cool. And then they do fuck all with him after that, really. There's even a scene in season, I think, when he finds Randall missing, and then he goes, oh, hell no. That always felt weird, that scene to me. It felt like, oh, we gotta have him say that. Like, I don't know, it felt like that was from the fucking like a 90s comedy film. What the fuck was that about? Anyway, season 3, T-Dog's like, oh, we're doing something. Oh no, he's dead. Okay, all right, great. Yeah, so I think T-Dog was probably at his best point in season 1, actually, unironically. I forgot about all that, like the stuff with him in the Vatos and going after Merle. Yeah, but he's a solid character for the most part. But I feel like people get weirdly obsessed with him, and I don't really get it. Maybe it's not racism. Maybe it's just because he's a cool dude. And when I say racism, it's not because you hate him. It's because you're tokenizing him as like the token black guy. So you're like, oh, we gotta be cool with it. You know, that's what it sometimes feels like, I guess. Maybe I'm in the wrong though. Maybe that's not true. Maybe most fans aren't like that. Oscar. I feel like Oscar. Maybe I should have another tier. Like great but good but minor. I've always talked about wasted potential, so maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I feel like he was wasted potential, but I think for what he was pretty good. I've talked about it before, though. I feel like they could have done a lot more with both Oscar and Axel, and I'd probably put them in the same. I put them in the same tier. Both Oscar and Axel were good but minor. And we'll do the Last Prisoner over than Big Tiny. Obviously, he's not on this tier. But Andrew, I would say, is also good but minor. You know, I think he serves his purpose well. And I like the twist that he actually wasn't dead. I think that works quite well. Although I feel like the scene where like Rick leaves him is a bit like, you hear him like screaming, like he's being eaten, and there's like soft sounds like flesh tearing. That I think was a bit cheap, right? That was a bit of a, ooh, you kind of you cheated the audience there. I don't really like that. But that, apart from that, I mean, I don't know if that really hurts his character, but I like the little twist that he's actually alive and he's the one doing all this shit. Let's go for Gary. Gary is I just don't really care for Gary, I guess, because like I feel like Laura was funny and like they built her up a bit. Gary was just like psychopath dude, and then they kill him off in like a really unceremonious way where he just gets killed during the mutiny. Obviously, when Negan stops the mutiny, Simon's mutiny, and I feel like I just don't care for Scott for fucking Gary at all. I was gonna call him Scott then. Fuck me. Oopsie. Gabriel. Gabriel is I think great. Yeah, I'm gonna put great. No, actually, fuck it. No, I love Gabriel. No, I'm gonna put love him. Yeah, for me, Gabriel's a great character. Listen, motherfuckers. I liked him in season 6. All right, I liked him in season 5. I liked him before he was. It was cool to like Gabriel. A lot of fans really hated Gabriel in season 5, but I sort of understood Gabriel. I empathized with his character. I realized why he was being this way, right? Because these strangers show up. He feels like they're punishing him for his sins of leaving his congregation out and like not letting them into his church when they begged him to let him in, right? To let them in. And he let in, so he thought that Rick and his group were the literal devil and they'd come to punish him. So that's why he does all that shit at Alexandria, and he tries to make up for it, but Rick's just a dickhead to Gabriel, probably rightly so. And then you have like Gabriel getting cool, killing the savior, saying a prayer and then executing a savior. Oh, cool. And then you have season 7 and 8 where Gabriel really steps up and becomes a fucking badass. And then you have like season 9 and 10 and 11, like Call Me Gabriel. Oh, that shit was cool. And you had the stuff with Maze where you just execute Maze and he's like, we couldn't take him with us, he killed his brother's family. Like Gabriel's getting cold and like, if you find one of them, keep them alive, start taking teeth and pulling fingers, like that shit. Like, well, stop taking fingers and pulling teeth, whatever he says. He's like, torture the fucking Whisperers. Like, Gabriel's going down a dark path. I love all that. And then they kind of drop it all, and it's like, oh, he's just a priest and he's cool, but he's also killing people and helping Daryl and Aaron kill this Commonwealth troopers. And yeah, it felt like they were doing something really interesting with Gabriel, and they just sort of dropped it. I feel like Gabriel should have been Dwight in the comics. I think they should have adapted that story because they could have done something interesting with Mercer there. The fact that they dropped that storyline is a bit disappointing because I think it wasn't done great in the comics, but I think they could definitely take that and do it better, which they did like in early Walking Dead a lot, right? I think they took a lot of storylines in early Walking Dead, like the first 1 to 6 seasons. They took a lot of storylines and really did them like much better. Yeah, and I feel like they could have done that with Gabriel and the Dwight sort of mutiny storyline, and I really wish they did. Who else have we got? Morgan. Okay, so Morgan, and I'm including... So if we're not including Fear, he'd be just love them. But I am including Fear for Morgan, Dwight, and Sherry, although I know I said I'm not touching Fear. I'm not touching Fear characters, but these guys were main show characters that crossed over to Fear. So for me, Morgan would be love him, but for what they did with him in Fear, he's just great, but he got boring. The problem is I fucking loved Morgan in the first, in all of his seasons, all of his appearances, mostly in the main show, although I feel like the Crazy Morgan, getting right back into Crazy Morgan in season 8, I think that for me was a bit tiresome. Eventually, it was like, oh, okay. And the way they resolved it felt a little bit too rushed. Now, I still maintain that Morgan should have probably had Carl's death, and it probably should have occurred like near the end of the season. I think that would have been a better fix, personally. But if we're going to keep Morgan alive, that's cool. We got to do something good with him, though, right? What more can we do with his character? So he goes over into Fear. and he's teaching his pacifism again. But I thought that Morgan kind of came to an understanding that his pacifism didn't always work, right? That it wasn't always something that could work. That sometimes you had to kill. Because he even says to, like, I think to Daryl and Rosita, right, or Sasha, or whatever, that, like, he's like, no, I don't know anymore, right? I don't, like, when they meet him in the kingdom in season 8, he says, like, he's not sure anymore. He's not sure what's right and what's wrong anymore, right? He has a crisis of that faith, and that's when obviously he splits in season 7 after what's the word? Not splits. Breaks, I guess, after Benjamin's death. But, like, we're reverting right back to the pacifist in season 4 of Fear. Okay, fine. And then he goes into Crazy Morgan again, because he kills the bounty hunter guy. And then he goes back into Peaceful Morgan, and then back into Crazy Morgan, and he's going around, like, helping people, and, like, leaving, like, fucking war balls for people and all that. And I felt like, what the fuck are we doing, Morgan? Let's have a good, solid arc. And the problem is Fear doesn't have a solid arc for Morgan, and he just becomes, like... And, like, there's episodes, they do, like, episodes with, like, characters in Fear, and then Morgan, like, fucking teleports in every episode and, like, helps out said characters who are in need. And, yeah, Morgan just kind of becomes, like, a fucking blank slate. Like, there's nothing interesting about Morgan at all. And he's just boring in Fear. He really is. He's a boring character in Fear. They ruined him. And Dwight is the same. And Sherry, I never really cared that much for. Sherry was, like, okay, I guess, in the main show. But where's Sherry? Where the hell is Sherry? Yeah, Sherry, I just don't care for. But yeah, Dwight, where the fuck is he? Yeah, Dwight and Morgan. Dwight is the same thing. Dwight was a really interesting character first. Like, he's a fucking arsehole. Like, season 6, he's in a shitty position, and then he kills Denise, and he's like an absolute villain in season 7. He's like a terrible, fucking awful person, right? Taunting people, like taunting Rosita and all that, and and he's terrible. But then he wants to fight Negan. Cool. Season 8, I like him, right? He turns against Negan, and then he gets caught. He almost dies, whatever. And then Daryl exiles him, and I think Daryl exiling him makes sense, right? It's a good middle ground. And then he goes to Fear, and like the character's just been forgotten. He's a blank slate. Nothing crosses over from it. It's like a separate fucking character, I swear. Like, he's now like such a great guy. He's a really cool guy. He's down with Morgan's pacifism. This is not the Dwight I know. What? And I get he kind of reverted his villainous ways, but you got to cross something over, and it felt like they never did. And he just became like a blank slate. And like I said, Sherry, I just don't care for. She goes there. Anyway, Richard is, for me, I think solid for the most part. I like what they did with him. I feel like some of the fact he's like so gung-ho about like dying for the kingdom. I feel like if the Saviors killed his daughter, I would have believed it a bit more. So he has a daughter who died because of like basically how he puts it is, he didn't act, and because he didn't act, his daughter died, right? And so now he wants to act, so like the people of the kingdom don't die. But what I think would have been maybe a bit better, just to like fix it, would have been if like the Saviors directly or indirectly got his daughter killed, and like he wants to fight against the Saviors for that reason. I just think that's like easier, right? And maybe even there's like a twist where, I don't know, like Ezekiel's like, actually it was all my fault, like, or something like that, right? We could have like some more drama there. But no, for the most part, I think what they did with Richard was good. I like him as a sort of one season character, right? A one and done character. And same with Benjamin. I think both of them are on the same level. They're pretty solid characters, and they're pretty good around like Morgan's sort of arc. And I think the episode with Benjamin's death is actually like a really underrated episode. Yeah, I really like sort of that whole story, I guess. Yeah, and both the characters were set up well, and their deaths were pretty impactful. I think these are like the last two sort of new characters that I really liked. After that, a lot of them are pretty rare. We're like Pope. Pope was trash. He goes there with Leah. Potential for sure. There was like the actor was really cool. They do fuck all with Pope. He just shouts at his men and he kills his men. Like, I hate that when he threw his man in the fire and killed his own men. I was like, okay, this is a shit villain. I fucking hate this villain already. Whatever they do with him after this is going to be trash. Because this is what I fucking hate. When you have a villain who just kills his own people for like the most minute fucking shit, you know that the writing is terrible. They did this like, do you know how many, I feel like Beta and Alpha combined killed more Whisperers than Daryl. Like, maybe that's not true. Someone has to work out the numbers. But like, honestly, they kill so many of their own people, and it makes me think, why the fuck are these people even with these people? The difference is like, Pope is like, the whole point of this was meant to be like a family unit, and that's really interesting. Why the fuck is Pope murdering his own people? It makes no sense. And it's just like such a lazy fucking writing to be like, oh, this guy's really bad. This guy's really bad. Do you know how he's really bad? He's gonna throw his man in the fire out of frustration. It would have been more believable if he threw Daryl in the fire or threw fucking Dog in the fire out of frustration. I would have preferred that. Could you imagine if like Pope just got really mad at his guy, his man, his mate, and just fucking snapped Dog's neck? That would have been a good scene, okay? That would have proven Pope as more of a villain in fans' eyes than him killing like a random fucking guy that we don't give a fuck about, like a random Reaper dude that we don't care about at all, right? Imagine if Pope like was just got so angry with this guy, like you fucked up, you left your brother to die, you fucking stupid, you know, was beating this guy, punching this guy, and out of frustration he just fucking kicked Dog and he just snapped Dog's neck, right, in front of Daryl and Leah. Fucking that would have been much better. That would have got fans angry, right? I would have liked that. That would have been cool. They should have done that. That's how I'm rewriting the Whisperers. The Reapers, sorry. Yeah, but Pope was shit. Hated him. We got Sam. A little annoying. The actor, I think, did a decent enough job. But I think he serves his purposes quite well. I like how Carol torments him. All that stuff's really dark. And yeah, I like that shit. But yeah, he's a meh, 50-50. I'm going to put Ron probably in the same vein. Like, some of the stuff is a bit cringe and a bit annoying here and there, but actually, no, I'm gonna put Sam in solid for the most part. Yeah, he's a bit annoying, I guess, but like that's his purpose, right? Is to be like a scared kid. And also, Carol basically got him killed, right? The reason why he gets so scared during No Way Out is all Carol's fault because she torments him. Ron, on the other hand, I feel like was a bit of like wasted potential. I've talked about it before, but yeah, he's a meh, 50-50 for me. Nicholas, I think I liked what they did with him. You know, kind of being this coward who tries to redeem himself, but ultimately like fucks up and kills himself. So yeah, he's good but minor. And for the most part, I think he's okay. Although it was a bit annoying. Like Glenn sparing him was like a bit like, oh no, Glenn, just kill him. He's a cunt. Carol. Now Carol is another great but got boring for me. I like her in season 4. I like her in season 5. I really like her killing Karen and David storyline. All that's great. Season 5, obviously, she's a badass. Season 6, she decides to run away, which I kind of get. Some people say, well, if you kill more people, it's just going to get easier, right? Not necessarily. I think it depends on what person you are, right? If you've never killed someone, I've never killed someone, so I'm not going to say how that could affect an individual. But I think for Carol, like, it was a lot for her. The problem I have with that is they just drop after season 8, right? They drop that storyline entirely. It's like, oh, Carol, I guess, dealt with the people that she killed. And do you know what? We'll talk about Daryl Dixon season 2. So spoilers for episode 4. Skip like a minute ahead, I guess, to miss it. I hate the fact, naturally. At first, I liked the Sophia stuff, and then I didn't realise why they brought it back. Now I hate it. Because they've brought it back, basically, to rehash the Carol leaves the group stuff again. Oh, annoying. Why are we doing that again? I thought we resolved that. We just resolved that shit off screen, and now we've done it again. Yeah. Dumbass storyline. And the fact, so the person who came back wasn't Rick, it was a feeling. Oh, stupid. Fucking stupid. Yeah, Carol has got a bit boring for me. I think she should have died in season 11. I think she should have been she either should have died at the end of season 10 and been like a big Andrea style death, sacrifice herself to get rid of the Whisperer Horde, or alternatively, she should have died at the end of season 11. She should have been the big death. I'll stand by that. I like Carol, but every character has to meet their end at some point. Speaking of, we've got Daryl, okay? Daryl is the same for me. I liked him. I think he was great at one point, but he's got boring for me. I think less so. Maybe, actually, no, wait, no. Carol has got boring for me, especially in season 11. Season 10, she annoys me. Season 11, I just don't care for her. Daryl, I think season 8, he annoyed me. But I liked him in season 9. I like him for the most part in season 10 and 11. Although I feel like he is not the front run, the sort of like the showman, the front runner, the protagonist that the show wants him to be. I just don't think he's that guy. He's not the guy, okay? But I still like him, right? I think Daryl's great. I just don't love him, and I think he has got boring for me. Daryl season 1 to 3, if you watch, or season 1 to 2, if you watch that character, it's like an entirely different character to me. They really did change him in like season 3 and 4. And I just wish there was a bit more quirkiness to him, right? But he kind of becomes like mumbly redneck guy, and that, like, I don't know, that wasn't always his character. And even like season 4, actually, like there was some great scenes in season 4, like the scene where like he has a go at Beth. He's like, I never got nothing from Santa Claus, never cut my wrist looking for attention. Like that is really good. So it's not just seasons 1 to 2, it's also 3 and 4. And I feel like I want a bit more of that. I want more vulnerable Daryl. I want more Daryl being funny and kind of mean and kind of like and rude. And I think if they had that throughout, like seasons 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Daryl Dixon season 1 and 2, I think he'd be up here. But I don't know, Daryl kind of got a bit boring for me at times. But I still think he's a great character overall. I think what they're doing in Daryl Dixon show, I don't think he deserves his own show. I found that show kind of boring, but Daryl's okay in it, I guess. Yeah, there's some cool badass moments, and Daryl is a cool character. I can't deny that. He's not a loving for me personally. He's just a great. He's leaning on the getting boring though, but I think they've probably maybe like lately. I think he's been okay. I don't think he's as bad as these guys. These guys actually do bore me a lot. Yeah, controversial. I know. I'm sorry. Oh, we may as well do Ricky Dicky Two Dog Grimes. We'll get him out of the way. Where is he? Ricky Dicky Dog Grimes. Listen, people say I glaze Rick a lot, and fuck you, I do, okay? I love Rick, okay? He's one of my favourite characters. And it's because he's the protagonist, of course. But Rick is like... I used to actually... No, but unironically, though, I used to actually not think Rick was the best character. I don't know if I say he's the best character. It's a difficult thing to say. But I think Rick's been consistent, right? I think everything they've done with Rick has been pretty consistent within character. And dark, right? I think even like season 8, right, which is a terrible season, Rick's arc is pretty solid in that season. Okay, his arc starts off with like him being pretty much all about murder and killing, right? Negan and the Saviors, and that's all he wants to do is, murder and kill the Saviors. But and Daryl kind of takes it a bit too far where he kills that surrendering Savior. But then Rick's like, oh fuck it, we'll do that shit. And even he's like killing like surrendering Saviors, right? He's just killing he's committing war crimes. And then by the end, Rick like obviously spares Negan. And I think like, although I hate that storyline, like I can't fault Rick's arc in that season. So even like the season I fucking hate, I still think Rick is pretty solid in. Now, unironically, I think The Ones Who Live is probably the worst arc for Rick, mainly because I think it kind of retcons. Like in season 9, Rick's kind of like about like peace and finding justice, right? Because that's what he does with Negan, finding a way forward. But in The Ones Who Live, he drops Carl's letter like a fucking bomb and just blows up. Where he drops Carl's letter like a fucking bomb and blows up all those CRM soldiers. And that kind of like, doesn't that like go against Carl's letter? Like, because I know Carl was talking about the Saviors, but it's also about like, it's kind of bigger than that, right? Because it's about the next world, and like when we find people, we got to find a way to move forward. Nah, Rick just blew up a bunch of people. Yeah, that's like so unironically, the worst thing for Rick, I feel, was that. I've always found that a bit weird. And I've been thinking about it lately as well with The Ones Who Live and how it kind of comes off from season 9. It is a bit funky. I mean, like Rick actually looks younger in The Ones Who Live, but like 12 years has passed. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, whatever. It's like a minor thing. But for the most part, yeah, I love Rick. I glaze Rick. I love Rick. I want Rick. Okay, I am Rick. Rick is in me. Whatever. We'll do Carl. We'll do Rick's son. Carl is great, okay? But he's not loving. I like Carl, but they fuck him up royally in season 4. Season 8. Yeah, they fuck him up royally in season 8. he sort of, I like the stuff they did with him in season 7. He was getting interesting, and then they turned him into a fucking a hippie freak. They turned him into a hippie ass pussy, okay? Because in season 8, Carl is all about kumbaya, living with the saviors, even though literally 3 days ago he wanted to kill Negan and he was happily shooting saviors. He started the fucking war. He fired the first shots of the war, right? That was Carl who did that. When Sasha came out of the coffin, he fired the first shots of the war. Yeah, he's like, oh no, wait, I know I fired the first shots of the war, and I tried to kill Negan. I snuck into the sanctuary to try and kill Negan, and I know that Negan is an evil bastard. I know that I was just killing like even more saviors. However, Father, Daddy Rick, we have to find a way forward. And that, if that means sparing Negan, then yeah, sure, we could spare Negan. Why not? Why did Carl get this? When did Carl get this revelation? What made him get this revelation? We have to have a story reason for that. You realize that? Yeah, so they really fuck up Carl in season 8, and then they kill him. What a fucking stupid move that was. I think that to me is like ludicrous. I still don't understand why they ever did that. It boggles my mind to this day. Shall we do a spin-off character? Let's do Laurent, right, from Daryl Dixon. I don't care for him. I'll be honest. I think he's getting there, maybe-ish, sort of, but I never really cared for the character. I feel like they didn't do anything to build him up. I don't buy that Daryl cares for him either. I just don't buy it. Let's do Isabel. Isabel, I started to care for in episode 3, and then they kill her off in the fucking dumbest, weirdest, fucking stupid way ever. Oh, spoiler, sorry. Oh, fuck. Spoilers for... I said it at the start of the video, so fuck you. You can't complain now. Yeah. Isabel, honestly, kind of bad. I just don't like how they ended her character. And I'll throw Sylvie in the same way. I feel like these are two characters they set up. They were doing interesting things with it. Like, what was the point of... Oh, no, even so, they give her a relationship with Daryl. And it's like Daryl doesn't even give a fuck that she's dead. He's like, oh, well, moving on, I guess. Hi, Carol, you're back. Fuck that. Honestly, awful. I don't like what they do with Isabel. And same with Janae. I was starting to like Janae, and then they fucking kill her off in a dumbass way. Got Lo Song, I don't want to talk about later on, but I don't care about Lo Song. I think he's butchered too. They turn him into a cult leader, and it was kind of whack. Janae was like set up to be like pretty cool, like she was starting to get interesting, and she's killed off in a dumb way. Yeah, Isabel, Sylvie, same way. Caudron, I think Caudron is I'm just talking about. I think he's solid for the most part. We'll just say that. I don't want to get into spoilers as all for. I promised I wouldn't get into spoilers for season 5, for episode 5 and 6. Falou, Falou is just good but minor, I guess. Okay, we get past all those guys. Okafor for me, from The Ones Who Live. He was solid for the most part. He's obviously a 1-episode character, but I really liked him. And same with Nat. I think both Okafor and Nat were actually like really well written characters, and most of these spin-offs don't have them. Well, actually, I think Caudron is just a 50-50. Actually, because he like he kills his men for the child. Like he's convinced this child like too quickly. Anyway, yeah, Okafor and Nat I think were pretty well written characters. I know they're both like 1-episode characters, but even still, I like them. Fawn, I didn't really get. I liked her, and then I kind of didn't like her at parts, and I feel like how they finished her off was kind of whack. So she's a 50-50 for me. I'll put her in the meh 50-50. Major General Beale, kind of bad, unironically. They set him up through like mentions in The World Beyond. He's kind of like feels like he's getting built up to be this like big bad. And obviously in The Ones Who Live, he's in like 3 episodes, and then he just gets fucking stabbed and he's dead. Like, oh, that's it. That was the big bad. That was the big bad that Rick's story was leading to. Was this fucking, and they hire fucking John Locke from Lost, and they don't do anything interesting with him. It's like kind of like, it's not as bad as Pope. I think he's better than Pope, but yeah, unironically, Pope Major General Beale was kind of bad. He was a bit of a letdown. And I think The Ones Who Live started really good, and it fizzled out a bit too quickly. I think they could have benefited from like an extra episode, really, or an extra 2 episodes, and they might have been able to draw that story out a bit more and actually done something interesting with Beale. And we never even got like, obviously in The World Beyond he has a son, and they just never mentioned the son in the main show, or in the Ones Who Live show. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like we were setting him up, and we didn't really get much screen time with him. So yeah, he was kind of bad. Okay, Tara Chamler. I think people say Chamber. It's Chandler. It's Tara Chandler. That's how you say it, right? I don't care for Tara. I just don't care for her. I understand there's some Tara fans. I've never really liked her that much. I thought she's kind of quirky and kind of cool in like the first couple seasons, but they just don't do anything interesting with her, and I just never cared for her really. I'm sorry. I know. Andrea. Andrea's like a meh 50-50. I don't think Andrea is as bad as some people say, but like, she's not my favourite. I can't lie. I tried to defend Andrea because I personally feel like the hate is a bit too much, and I feel like it verges on sexism. And the same with Laurie, but like, I still like Andrea. But I recognize that she is a bit annoying sometimes, and I think some of the writing for her wasn't the best. Laurie is just a solid for the most part. It's nothing great, but I think Laurie gets a lot of unfair treatment too. I've talked about it before, but yeah, I think for what Laurie does in season 1, 2, and 3, I think is it's pretty good. She's Rick's wife. Okay, I need to refocus a second because I'm so tired now because I've been doing this for ages. Right, Laurie is in season 2, she can be a little bit annoying. Like her crashing a car, that's a bit annoying, right? And the fact that she sort of leads Shane on, that's kind of what causes Shane to go crazy. But I still think everything like Laurie does feels within character, and I still think like she's a relatable character to me. So that's why I like her. Anyway, let's do. Well, I was just talking about him. Let's do Shane. Shane. Like people say Shane's overrated. He's overrated for a good reason. He's a tragic fucking character. He is a villain. People say Shane isn't a villain. What's a villain, my dude? A villain is like what? Like an person or an evil person who does like what villain is. I suppose you can't use villainous in the definition of villain, but as an evil person who does evil acts, I guess. Shane does evil acts, okay? He turns into a villain, that's for sure. It's a slow transition, but he does turn into a villain because he tries to murder his best friends so he can fucking steal his wife and his son. If that's not a villain like action, I don't know what is. That's a villain acting. He tries to SA Laurie and the CDC. That's a villainous action, okay? He turns into a villain. He wasn't a villain at first, sure. He's not just an antagonist. Like, Hank from Breaking Bad is an antagonist. You would never say Hank's a villain. Hank's an antagonist. Shane is a villain, okay? What the fuck is this stupid like point coming from? How is he not a villain? Anyway, he wasn't a villain at first, that's for sure. He turned into one. But by the same metric, the governor wasn't a villain. Because maybe that's actually not so true. No, the governor was always a villain. I take that back. Yeah, no, Shane's a great character. Tragic character. Starts off, well-intentioned, like just he loves his best friend, and is with his wife, but obviously it's, it wasn't done maliciously. It was done by the fact that obviously they bonded through the loss of Rick, right? And that's how they ended up having sex. And people like to criticize Laurie for that, and I just say to those people, maybe it's because of stuff that's happened in my personal life, but like sometimes you bond with people through trauma, right? Like when you lose someone and you lose people, sometimes you if you share a loved one that you've lost and you and this person kind of begin to bond, relationships can form. And so I understand why Shane and Laurie get together, and I don't fault either of them, and neither does Rick. Listen, motherfuckers, neither does Rick. Rick says it's cool. I understand why. I get it. Don't worry about it. And Laurie dumps Shane straight away anyway, so what the fuck does it matter? Oh, God, fuck you. Anyway, yeah, Shane, tragic, turns into a villain. Very sad. Love the character. Is my conclusion there. I could turn this into a part 2, but we're gonna plow through it. We're gonna do some quick fire ones. So Jared is fucking cringe. I think he's kind of trash. I think the actor was maybe miscast, or the writing for it, the character's crap. He's just too cartoonishly villain for me. I don't really like it. Arat, I think, is just a good but minor. You know, she's a minor character, but I like how they bring her back to like be one of the ones that Oceanside are executing. That I think was cool, just because it was like felt like, you know, some sort of consistency. We got Rachel. All the Oceanside characters. I just don't care for. Actually, no. Rachel's a step further because she's kind of trash. She's annoying. She doesn't do anything with the story really. It's just like, oh, let's have a cool little mean girl, you know, be mean to Tara, and then they age her up, like, obviously, and there's a different actress plays the older version, and like she's just there to represent the Oceanside. The Oceanside was the most pointless community ever, and they could have just cut it from the show, and it wouldn't have made much difference. They could have rewrote a few things, and honestly, it wouldn't. The change would not change. The show would not change that radically. We got Tyler Davis from season 10 and 11. I don't care for him really, at all. Gracie, I don't care for. I like how Aaron has a daughter. That's kind of cool. I think it was kind of cool that he raises her. But I don't think she's just a child. There's not really much she does. She is just a prop, basically. Like, what fucking significant thing does Gracie do? What significant characterization does Gracie have? She doesn't have anything, okay? She almost dies in season 11 with the flooded house, and that's it. That's all she does, really. Apart from that, it's just like, hi, Daddy! Oh, hi, Daddy! Oh, how are you doing, Daddy? That's all it is, right? Herschel, I'm waiting for him to get interesting in Dead City. At the moment, I just don't care for him. I think I liked him a little bit in season 11. He was kind of cool. Maybe I'll just put him in good but minor, actually. Yeah, good but minor for Herschel Jr. That's fair. Because I do like what they do with him in season 11, like confronting Negan and all that. I thought that was interesting. And in Dead City, he's just moody teen. We'll see if he gets interesting, though. Oh, well, speaking of Dead City, let's do Pearly. Pearly, for me, is like a mere 50-50. He's kind of boring, but I can see potential. So I'm waiting for that potential, okay? And maybe season 2 will deliver. The Croat is the same vein. I see potential. At the moment, I want more. I don't like how the Dharma is sort of overshadowing him. The Dharma, for me, I don't care for at the moment. We'll see if she steps into her own place as a villain. It felt weird that we introduced like another... Actually, no, I kind of like the fact that there's layers to the Croat, right? That he's just doing the Dharma or the Dome or whatever she called. She's just doing her work, her bidding. I do kind of like that as an aspect. But I want the Croat to step up a bit more. I think he's a cool concept of a villain, like having a next savior be the one. It is all a bit coincidental that they were able to find Negan, but whatever. Like, they know Negan's alive, but whatever. Yeah, and the Dharma, I don't care for as a villain at the moment, but it's possible she can be elevated. The Warden... What the fuck was the point? Kind of bad. Like, why do we have to introduce another villain, even though we've only got 3 episodes left? Like, what was the point of that? They should have just focused on Pamela being a villain. Speaking of, Pamela was a kind of bad villain. I think the fact that how she kind of suddenly turns into a villain felt very out of nowhere. Also, she's got labor camps and shit, and obviously she knew about this. That was a bit weird, and they didn't really run on that. The whole mutiny stuff, I think, could have been done better too, building up to it. I just wish they did more with Pamela as a villain. Or they should have just done Lance and just had Lance be the villain all along, which I thought they were going to do, and then they kill him off in a pretty unceremonious way. Although I feel like Lance was solid for the most part, so he goes into solid for the most part for Lance. I like what they did with him. Yeah, like I said, I like what they did with him. I think he was a pretty interesting villain. And I think he was pretty cool too. I like the sort of two-face they did with him as well. It was a bit cartoonish at times, but his death was a bit sucky. Oh, you all know my opinions on Alan. I think Alan is a trash character. and probably the worst storyline in season 3. Actually, I'll just say kind of bad. I don't think he's trash, but he's kind of bad. It's a weird storyline. I don't like it, and it just feels out of place of season 3. It's like the worst part of season 3, and season 3 is a great season. So we got She-Ra. She-Ra was kind of bad. The twist was interesting, I guess. Actually, no. Wait, no. I'll just put She-Ra. I guess I didn't care for. The twist was kind of cool. I actually liked that. Although we all saw it coming because they announced the casting call for Max, right? So we knew it was happening, but I kind of like it. It's like the one time The Walking Dead does a twist that I don't hate, but then they just do nothing with her. I was like, oh, I don't care then. Max, I'm just gonna say meh 50-50. It's kind of the same with Mercer, I guess. Like, or maybe, No, I feel like Max, they could have done more with, but honestly, I wasn't that bothered. But at the same time, she's like a character that was introduced so late that I don't really care that much for her, to be honest. But I'll just put her in the meh 50-50. The difference is like Mercer. Maybe actually I'm going to put Mercer up. I feel like Mercer is a meh 50-50. Because yes, he had potential. I just can't put, yeah. I think I like Mercer way more than most of these people on this tier, so I feel like putting him that low is not fair. Maybe I'll put Mercer on solid. Nah, fuck it. Mercer's solid for the most part. I've changed my mind there. Okay. Regina, we'll get a few out of the way. I don't care for. Whatever. It felt like they added another lieutenant because they're like, we need a female lieutenant, which, whatever. She doesn't really do much, and then she dies. Eduardo, what did I put Cal? I put Cal in good but minor, sure. Eduardo can go there too. They don't really do much. They're just kind of there. Lucille, unironically, she's a 1-episode character. I understand that, but that episode, she's like, that's like, she shares that episode with Negan, right? I love Lucille, okay? I think she's a great character. And yeah, I know she's only in 1 episode, so maybe she should be in the good but minor. But I kind of don't see her as a minor character in the same way, because if you see that episode as like a movie, she's like a main character, if you know what I mean. She's a main character in that episode. Yeah, for me, I fucking love her. And speaking of characters who basically are main characters in episodes, we've got Eastman. Oh, fuck me, what am I doing? Eastman is also love them, right? Both Lucille and Eastman are 1-episode characters, but they absolutely shine. And Eastman especially, oh my god, his story is so fucking tragic. The character is written really well, and like him training Morgan, that fucking episode is like probably in my top 3 episodes. Here's Not Here, love that episode. Here's Negan is probably maybe not my top 3, but my top 10. Or maybe top 20, I'm not sure. I'll have to see. But yeah, Here's Negan's another great episode. Both are flashback episodes, and both are fucking amazing, okay? And Lucille and Eastman, they carry those episodes. And they're both great characters. Ed Peltier, I don't care for. I understand I don't think the death is bad. I don't think the character is bad. I just don't care for him. Sophia, I think was a good but minor. I think her death is pretty gut-wrenching, but not as much as like Lizzie and Mika. It's just kind of sad, really. It's a bit annoying too, because it felt like the barn scene was always like confused me, because it's logic leaping a little bit. Dwayne, I think it's probably the same vein as Sophia. He's good, but he's a minor character. It's sad that he dies, sure, but there's nothing. Neither of them have much character, really. Sophia and Dwayne, that is. Juanita, aka Princess. Yeah, I think she's for me she's solid for the most part. I really like her in the show compared to the comics. I think she's much better in the show. She was always very cringe in the comics to me. So yeah, I'll put her just in the solid for the most part. I like her. Earl is, yeah, I guess solid for the most part. I like him. I think they did enough with him. Same with Tammy, his wife. I think, yeah, both characters, like, they serve their purpose well enough, and I think I'm cool with them. I'm cool with them. Dante, I fucking hate. They cringe. The twist is stupid. I've talked about it before. We won't go into detail again. Gamma? Honestly, I didn't care for that storyline. I didn't care for Gamma. I didn't care for that storyline. I think it's kind of trash. Well, I don't think it's trash. I feel like Gamma was like an extra element that could have just been cut. And like the Whisperer War went on for far too long. Speaking of, we'll do Alpha. Alpha, I think, is great but got boring. Yeah, I think her introduction was done brilliantly. All the stuff leading up to the Pike deaths was done brilliantly. Season 10, she overstayed her welcome. They shouldn't have done a whole season on the Whisperer War. They should have wrapped it up in like half a season, to be honest. Beta, I think, is probably the same. Not boring. I think Beta's just solid for the most part. I think they just didn't do any of the cool shit, like the fucking fight scenes with him and Negan. I wanted to see that shit, and they just never showed it. It's really annoying. Yeah, I've talked about it before. Sebastian, I think, is like a solid for the most part. I think he serves his purpose well. He's not a character I particularly think is well written, like really well written, really complex. He is just like rich kid who's an asshole, right? It's a pretty easy character to write, but I think for what he did, he was solid enough. We got Jules. Jules, I don't care for, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. She was kind of flirty. Like, where's Luke? We'll do Luke. Oh fucking no, we'll do Eugene. Eugene, I think is great. I'm going to put him in great. I got a new respect for Eugene. Although I don't like what they did in Season 8. He becomes a turncoat for far too long. And it's just, maybe it's just an issue with Season 8 as a season. It is a weak-ass season. I think that's how like all the characters at their worst is in like Season 8. Eugene especially. I think him joining the Saviors in Season 7 makes sense. But like they sort of have like the scene with him and Sasha where it looks like, he's going to turn back pretty quickly, right? It takes them a whole season. It takes them all of Season 8 to turn against the group. They're like the last fucking minute, literally. Yeah. And he was people. I see people in the comments saying Eugene was playing. No, he wasn't. He was fully bought into the Saviors. You haven't watched the show, or you haven't watched it in a while. Eugene was fully bought into the Saviors up until Rosita and Daryl kidnap him, and Gabriel makes some faulty bullets by mistake. He doesn't even come up with the faulty bullets thing, right? He takes that from Gabriel. Obviously, he puts it into effect. But yeah, I feel like, for me, I just think Eugene was good. But everything else that Eugene does is pretty good for the most part. So, yeah, he's a great character for me. Bob, motherfucking Stuckey. I love him. He's like one of my favorite minor characters. I think he's criminally underrated. He is just like the happy-go-lucky dude, the ultimate optimist, and he's not there for long. And I think everything he does is really good. I think like he's a wise guy as well. The shit he says to Rick's really cool. Like even in light of current events, nightmares end. It doesn't end who you are. Like he's so quotable. Okay. Self-awareness is a beautiful thing. Yeah, and Bob's also a really tragic character as well. Like he was part of two groups that died, and and he's just trying to get by and all that. Lily, I think it's just like good but minor. She's not there for long. She's not that interesting, really. But I don't not care for her. Maybe I don't. I'm gonna leave her there for now. I'll leave her in good but minor. Dr. Emmett Carson, I don't care for really. He's just like kind of weird, creepy doctor. I always find him creepy, but I don't really care. Dr. Jenner. Dr. Jenner was good but minor, I guess. Yeah, I mean he was fine for what he was, and then he dies. Owen, the Alpha Wolf, was kind of cringe, but I think maybe the actor was miscast. I've talked about this before, but I think for the most part he was good but minor. I think I threw in. Did I throw in? Oh yeah, I threw in Edward, the other wolf. Same thing for him. He's also good but minor. Annie, Negan's wife, I don't fucking care for. I just like what a boring fucking character. They didn't really do anything with it. They could have made it like a bit interesting. She's like a wooden fucking plank. And I don't care when she's like almost gonna get shot. Like I have no feelings. I'm like oh no, not Negan's wife, Annie, who just randomly fucking showed up and was never set up. Luke, I thought this guy was pretty charismatic. I think he was solid for the most part. I mean, he's a cool little character, although I don't really like how he showed back in season 11 just to die. He probably should have been a Pike death, really. DJ,
Ironically, I actually kind of like DJ. I think he's a solid for the most part. I like how he's like a recognizable face who like flip flops a lot, but in the end becomes like a really loyal group member. I like that shit. I think that was cool. Elijah, Loki, I don't care for. I don't think he's that interesting. He was cool at first, like, oh, that's like a ninja fucking character. Cool, okay. And then he took off the mask, and he became like so uninteresting. I just don't fucking care. It wasn't a character I cared for at all. Gage, I don't care really. I think his death is fine. I think he was set up fine. I think it's like but for me personally, I just don't care for him. Tommy, I don't care for. It felt really weird that we even bothered doing the whole Michonne finds her daughter adaptation from the comic. Like, why fucking bother doing it when it's just gonna be Yumiko's brother? Like, I don't fucking give a fuck about this dude. And they didn't do anything with him really, apart from he saves Ezekiel, I guess, and he saves Judith. But it's like they could have had any random fucking doctor do that. Yumiko, I think for me is like solid for the most part. I think she kind of shines a lot in season 11 for sure. Connie, I think as well. I don't dick ride Connie like some fans. I think she's good, but like, you know, she's quirky, she's fun, she's a more light-hearted character. I like that. But then like, I feel like her and Daryl should have just got together. That would have been fine. Like, why not just do that? I think probably what would have elevated Connie's character as well is if Kelly died too. Have her deal with that, you know. I like the journalism stuff as well, but I wish we kind of did that a bit more. And the journalism felt like a writer who doesn't know like what fucking investigative journalism is. Like, it's like, okay, this is what Connie's going to be doing. She's going to be asking obviously blatant questions to Mercer. Like, it felt like fucking juvenile. Yeah, but I do like Connie. I don't think she's not in the great for me. Jerry is like Jerry is fine. He's a one-trick pony. They don't do anything with his character. He is just comic relief, and that's all he remains throughout the entire fucking show. So listen, he's good, but he's minor. And I generally feel like he's a minor character, because he doesn't have barely any characterization. He doesn't have any arcs. He doesn't do anything that interesting. He is just like the comic relief. It's cool to have a comic relief, don't get me wrong. But like, you think like Lost, right? The TV show Lost, where Hurley is kind of like a comic relief. But Hurley has like so much characterization at the same time. Maybe I don't know if I'm comparing the two because they're both like bigger guys. But listen, yeah, Jerry's cool. I like him, but like there's not really much to do with his character, so I'm not gonna dick ride him that hard. He is like a minor character. Denise, I really liked what they did with her. I think she's a solid for the most part for me. She has like she's a one season character, but she has like a pretty profound arc, and I like it. Grapey Davy, I don't care for really. I think he serves his purpose, but ultimately he's not. I don't think he's a really well written character or anything. He's just arsehole dude who's grapey. Aiden, I think he's fine as like a mini sort of villain or a mini sort of problem in season 5, and yeah, his death kind of causes problems with Deanna and all that. We may as well get Deanna out of the way. Deanna, I feel like I'm a meh with Deanna. Like, I like her, but I feel like she kind of turns a little bit too laissez-faire with Rick, or a little bit too like inactive near like season 5, or sorry, season 6. She becomes a bit too inactive for me. Reg is just good but minor. And Spencer, I like Spencer's character. I think he's solid for the most part. He's a snake. He's an arsehole, don't get me wrong. But I think it all makes sense, right? Enid. Enid is, honestly, I mean, Enid's solid for the most part. I don't, like, hate her. I don't, like, adore her. I think, like, she's, like, edgy teen who becomes doctor. You know, she's got some profound little lines with her and Carl. I think the relationship with her and Carl is like really cute too. I like that. But there's like nothing that crazy to go about the character. Her death, I think, was pretty tragic, and I don't know, maybe it was right. Maybe we could have done more with Enid. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it would have probably like made Sadiq's death not feel as like much of a gut punch, because like if Sadiq died in season 10, people say, well, Carl died for nothing. Well, he wouldn't have died for nothing if Sadiq, because Sadiq trained Enid to be a doctor, right? And now Enid's the doctor. So then, in a sense, Carl didn't die for nothing. Carl still didn't die for nothing anyway, because Sadiq was the doctor for years. So, yeah. Anyway, speaking of Sadiq, honestly, Sadiq for me is a meh. Like, he was getting interesting, and then they kill him off, and it's like, oh, whatever, and fuck it, I don't really care. I don't really care much for him in season 9, until like he gets kidnapped. I'm like, oh fuck, no, not the cool doctor guy. And then like season 10, he starts to get really interesting, and then they just kill him off. In season 8, I don't give a fuck about him in season 8. He's a bit annoying actually in season 8. I'm like, what the fuck did Carl die for this guy? Why is he annoying Rick about like stories about his dead mom? Noah, oh god, I don't care for Noah. I just honestly, they didn't do anything that interesting. Like they started maybe like he had potential. He was like such a wasted potential character. He shows up, he abandons Beth. Well, I guess he kind of had to abandon Beth at the hospital. He's a dick to Daryl and Carol, and then he helps to go try and get Beth back, and he dies like 4 episodes later. I don't fucking care. Diane, whatever you say it. Meh 50-50. She's there a lot. She does a lot. She's like a Maggie loyalist, and then she abandons Maggie to go to the Commonwealth. And honestly, maybe she's just solid for the most part. I don't know. She's just like a background character, really. But I think she serves her purpose fine. Dog is pretty great. I like Dog, but they don't have the balls to kill him, which is sad. But yeah, he's pretty great overall. He's pretty cute. Shiva, listen, I'm going to be honest. I think the tiger was fucking stupid. I know the comic does it, and it's stupid in the comic as well. It's like, it kind of like jumps the shark a little bit for me. Like Gritty, like if you watch like Gritty Walking Dead season 1 and 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like, it feels real. It feels like these are real people, real scenarios, real. And like, listen, is it possible that a man could take a tiger and like train it? Sure, but this would be like, imagine having like Breaking Bad, and in season 5 of Breaking Bad, or actually no, in season 4 of Breaking Bad, Gus, Walt goes to Gus's house, or maybe that happens in season 3, I forget. But in season 4 of Breaking Bad. Walt goes to Gus's house, and there Gus has a chimpanzee as a pet and like a bodyguard, right? Now listen, would it be possible? Sure. But is it likely? Very unlikely. And does it kind of hurt the realism? Yes. And that's my problem with Shiva the tiger. It ruins the realism. Ezekiel and the kingdom and and his stupid way of speaking and his fucking dumbass like, we are one. Well, the we are one's fine, but and yet I smile and all that. All the cringe stuff that Ezekiel goes on about. Yeah, all that I think kind of ruins the realism of the show, and the tiger does ruin the realism of the show. And like case in point, the season 7 finale. Although I kind of like that episode, it is kind of dumb. Like, how does Shiva know the difference between like who's a savior, who's a scavenger, and who's like an Alexandrian? Like, wouldn't it have been funny if Shiva just started mauling Tobin to death? That would have been kind of wacky. So for me personally, I think Shiva's kind of bad. It's just my personal opinion. I think it kind of ruined the realism a little bit. Maybe it's fine. It's fine in the comics because it's a comic, but in the show, it's really dumb. They left like some of that stuff out of the comic, like some of the more immature like storylines, like the suicide pact between Julie and Chris. Like they never had that in the show because it was kind of, it felt like a comic book thing, and it wasn't very well developed. Yeah, I honestly, generally, I feel like they should have left the tiger out. Jackie was good but minor, I guess. I kind of liked her. She had some funny moments here and there. I want to get through this quickly because Jesus Christ, this video is long. Paula, the savior lady. I actually, like, unironically, kind of like Paula a lot. I think she's a solid, like, mini character for Carol. And she's, like, a nice mirror to what Carol has kind of become, right? And what Carol is. Dawn Lerner is kind of bad. I think the character was just written really weirdly. And it was like they wanted to have it 2 ways where she wasn't so bad. But at the same time, she, like, She allows like all these. So I've talked about this before as well. So it makes no sense. So if Dawn really has no control over her cops who are like raping people and laughing and all that, right? She really has no control. Then why haven't they overthrown her already? Because they clearly want to overthrow her. O'Donnell does, LeCarey does, Bob Lamson does, Shepard does. They also, how have she not been overthrown already? Right? It makes no sense. It's really weirdly written. And I just don't, yeah, Dawn's kind of bad. Virgil, it's kind of bad. Weird character they threw in who drugs Michonne. They bring him back for like no reason. He gets stabbed and then he just fades into the background. So odd. Dale, listen, Dale's solid for the most part. I mean, he's a pretty cool guy. He's a chill guy. He's the moral compass. He's cool. Pete serves his purpose. I think, I mean, he's good, but minor. Oh my god, I'm actually getting delirious at the time. Aaron is, for me, I'm gonna be honest, Aaron bores me. Okay? Aaron's great. I like some of the stuff they do with season 11, but he kind of gets boring for me. Maybe too harsh. No, I don't give a fuck. Aaron is, like, a bit of wooden, okay? He's not got, like, quirky, like... I didn't do enough with him, okay? I don't know. Maybe I'll put Aaron in the grey. I don't know if he's quite boring. There's times where he's boring, but I think in season 11 he got it more interesting, I think. Yeah. So he would have been boring like pre-season 11. I think season 11 he did stand out a lot. So I'll put him in the grey, alright? I'll be nice. Glenn. I love Glenn. Great character. I think his arc could have been... I'm going to leave him there. His arc probably could have been done a bit better at the end of season 6, leading on to his death in season 7. And that's why I feel like his death was a mistake, in the sense that, well, I think it needed to happen, but I think that we could have got there a bit better. And I think they were so bothered about keeping, like, the secret. Because if you watch season 6, right, it's quite clear that Abraham dies because his arc is kind of complete. But Glenn is not the same because they don't complete his arc. They just kill him. And that's what's always annoyed me about Glenn's death. Is I really wish they just, like, we all knew Glenn was going to fucking die. There was no keeping the secret. I mean, the cliffhanger's dumb anyway. They could have just got rid of that shit. But, yeah, I mean, I like Glenn. I think he's great. I love him. He's going in there. I love him. Heath was kind of like... I actually think they was, like... I really like what they were doing with Heath in season 6. And then he just disappears in season 7, so whatever. Morales, I just don't fucking care for. What a fucking waste. They brought him back for a meme to kill him. Magna, I've talked about Magna before. I think she's kind of bad. Not trash, but she is kind of bad. She's just really weird. She's like the least interesting member of her group. She's not written very well. She's like constantly annoying. Like, I don't know why I should care about this woman when she's like stealing from the group and shit. And she's just being so mean and miserable all the time. And then she doesn't do anything interesting. Like nothing particularly noble. And then her and Yumiko get back together at the end. I'm like, why are you with this woman, Yumiko? You could do so much better, right? Beth. Listen, I used to like think Beth was kind of shit, but honestly, I think Beth's kind of great. I like her as a character. I don't like her death that much. I think it was kind of dumb, and it was very it was an out of character death because why would she stab Dawn in a hallway with all of her friends and loved ones being there? But regardless, I think everything Beth did, especially with what Beth did for Daryl's character and opening him up, was really good. So yeah, I really like Beth. Gareth was fine for what he was. I think he was solid for the most part, yeah. He was a cool little minor villain, and I'm glad he didn't overstay his welcome. Fat Joey, kind of funny, I guess. Good but minor. A little funny sort of minor villain. And his death's pretty satisfying, unironically, because he was a sniveling coward pussy, right? He's that kid in the playground who bullies for clout, or no, who bullies so he can't get bullied, and he'll never stand up for what is right. So fuck that guy. Gregory kind of outstays his welcome. He's funny. He's a funny comedic duo with Simon. I'll just say good. I'll say solid for the most part. Yeah, I like Gregory. He does, the fact he survives that long is a bit ridiculous though. Or like at the very least, I feel like Maggie should have exiled him. Or if I was Maggie, I would have exiled him. Vickers, I don't care for. She's just Colonel for the Commonwealth. She doesn't do anything interesting really. Brandon, I fucking actually hate. No, I've changed my mind about Brandon now. I actually hate this adaptation. I think it kind of ruins Negan's story. You know, God, no, I really hate it. So obviously I talked about Brandon in the comics before. Yeah, Brandon in the show, that whole storyline was dumb. I hate it, and it was like a way to like try and whitewash Negan. We're gonna make Negan. Oh, this kid. Like, the worst part about Brandon is like the reason Brandon thought that killing the woman and child was right is because Negan, he had this view of Negan that he killed kids, and Negan's like, I didn't kill kids, and he's mad that this kid that Brandon has thought that Negan kills kids. Where the fuck could he maybe have got that from, Negan? Could it have been the fact that you kept the dude who murdered the children as your right hand? Could that maybe have skewed your public image, Negan? Is that possible? So, unironically, I hold Negan responsible for that boy and woman's death. Okay, that was his fault as well as Brandon's. Because bear in mind, right, during the Savior War, right, the Season 8 War, Brandon was a child, right? Brandon was radicalized as a child by Negan's way, okay? So Negan is responsible for what Brandon became. Lydia, I've talked about Lydia, obviously, in relation to Henry. I think she's a meh, just because she's interesting in Season 9, I like her in Season 9, and then she's boring as fuck in Season 10 and 11. There's just nothing interesting, because they get rid of the Henry through line, so why do I care? Jesse, I like Jessie. She's solid for the most part. I don't know. Maybe she could have survived longer. It's possible, but yeah, I like how she kind of steps up and becomes like a survivor, and then sadly meets her end. Joe the Claimer. Unironically, I think he's probably my favorite like minor villain. Fuck it. I'm gonna put him in great. I like Joe. I like him as a crux to Daryl. I like how he's kind of like this opposite to Daryl. He's like one of the worst people on the show as well, like worst villains. But like he doesn't feel like he's evil for the sake of it. It is like, this is like his code, right? He's just a fucking evil redneck, and his code is that the claimed philosophy. I like that as like it's a flawed and it's a flawed philosophy, but he knows it is, right? He knows it's not. He knows it's like chaos, right? Because he says like it's a little bit of order. There is no order to things, but we still gotta have a few rules, right? Because when men like us follow rules, the world becomes ours, right? Unironically, Joe I think is a really cool little minor villain, and we rarely know what like the full extent. Like he's always like a bit of a piece of shit, and obviously his guys, we can kind of get hints that his guys are like pretty grapey, right? Because like Len talks about it. About Michonne, right? So we get like little hints of it, but I think like it's almost like a bit of a shock where we find out like how terrible Joe is. Where he's like, first we're gonna beat Daryl to death, then we'll have the boy, then the girl, then we'll have the girl, then the boy, and then I'm gonna shoot you and you're square. You're like, well, okay, Joe's just a rapist, right? Yeah, like I like that sort of barrel to evil, like how we learn how terrible he is. Yeah, so for me, yeah, Joe's a great villain. I like him. I don't give a fuck. He's up there. Yeah, he's that high. I don't even care. Anyway, Alden. Listen. Unironically, I don't fucking care about Alden. I just don't care. I think he had potential to be interesting. They just didn't do anything that interesting with him. I don't fucking care that ultimately about him. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'll just put him meh. No, I'll put him in the meh. I'll leave him in the meh. I was being too harsh. But I don't care that much about him. I can't lie. Milton, I kind of like as like a mini character, and I think he's on this level. I think he's solid for the most part. He has like an arc. He's a coward dude, and he tries to take a blow at the governor at the end, and it was probably the right time for him to die. Carver was kind of cool. Yeah, he's probably my only favorite character from the Reapers. I like how he just beats the shit out of Maggie and Elijah. I wish he kind of stayed around for longer, to be honest. I think he's solid for the most part. He's like the only good character from the Reapers, really. Just because he was just an arsehole, right? But he was so cocky, and I kind of like that. Although the stuff with him and Daryl, like the fact that he didn't know Daryl was a spy, it makes him a fucking idiot. Because it was like the most obvious spy. I mean, I could have joined the Reapers yesterday and not known Daryl, and I would have figured out that that motherfucker was a spy. Randall, as a character, is fine, I guess. Good but minor. He serves his purpose, and he serves it well. I think he's a great moral crux in season 2. Len is a great like little mini villain for Daryl in those few episodes, and he is like evil version of Daryl. I like him. I think he's okay. Olivia, yeah, same vein. Good but minor. I like how she stands up to Negan. I like how we kind of build her up in season 5 and season 6. And, you know, she's one of the people that runs out to help out in the No Way Out, you know, kill the zombies, kill the dead. That was cool. So, yeah, I like her there. Otis is just, like, fine, you know. He's good but minor. And he serves his purpose well. Karen, same deal. Good but minor. Toby Carson was fucking insane. I liked him. He was really interesting, but they didn't do very much with him, so I'm just gonna put him in the good but minor. But maybe he shouldn't have stayed around for long because it would have overshadowed Lance a bit. But I liked him as like a Lance henchman. Yeah, so I think that's fair. Good but minor. That's fair. Jocelyn. Now she's kind of like in the same vein as like an Eastman, you know, Lucille. Like she's one of these characters or one episode flashback character, but she's not as good as those two. I think for me, she's kind of bad. Kind of bad. I like the idea of having like all these kids, you know, do your dirty work, but the characters like are friends with Michonne, and like, but she's on her own. She's training these kids. Like, it's I don't know. I like that episode. I like Scars. It's just this character. Maybe I'm being mean. No, fuck it. I'm going to stand by it. I think it's weird. I think it's, like, not explored enough. Maze was a pretty cool, like, mini, like, villain, I guess. I guess he is, like, a big part of his episode, so maybe I'll put him in the solid for the most part. Yeah, that's fair. And then we've got Shumper. Obviously, love him. Best character in the show. Wayne Dunlap. Shumper's the second best character in the show. Wayne Dunlap is the best. So here's my ranking for my personal favorites. No, listen, Wayne Dunlap is a dead meme. I don't even fucking care for it. I made my Wayne Dunlap video before fucking Wayne Dunlap blew up, right? I was there before you motherfuckers. But unironically, Shumper is I love them, alright? Because the actor loves me. Yeah, so these are my favorite characters, and this is probably actually like fair. I think my favorite character in the show, like unironically, is probably Rick. I mean, I'm like, it's probably Michonne. Nah. My favorite character. Okay, this is my list. Michonne is my favorite, probably, with like Rick second place, close to. My third favorite character is unironically probably the Governor. Then probably Merle. Then maybe Herschel. Then I think probably Gabriel. And then Abraham. Then Shane. Then Glenn. And then probably Bob, actually, yeah. And then Eastman. Eastman's above Lucille. And then Lucille. Then Shumpert. So yeah, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. Yeah, so those are my top 10 characters. Michonne's number 1, with kind of joint place with Rick. Number 2, Rick. Governor, Merle, Herschel, Gabriel, Abraham, Shane. Not very many women, I admit, but whatever. Yeah, and then like the next ones, my next sort of top 10s, I guess, is like, yeah, Rosita, Beth, Lizzie, Mika, Sasha, Daryl, Carl. Yeah, I've always said that Daryl probably isn't in my top 10 favorite characters, and yeah, he isn't. So Sue me. And listen, these ones, I know people are going to be mad at like Negan and Morgan being here. Everyone's cool with hating Maggie though, I guess. Listen, the reason why Negan and Morgan are here is they got boring for me, okay? There was at one point they would have been up here. Like Negan season 7, 8 would have been up there. I just don't like what they did with him personally. I don't like how they adapted him personally. And if you do, that's cool, okay? If you fucking love Negan, if you love Daryl, they're in your top 10, that's great. I'm glad that you like them. I just don't, okay? And that's fine. We can all have our opinions. Anyway, I've been going on now for I think over 2 hours. I don't even know. The time has passed by. My brain is fried. I think I'm delirious. I think I'm hearing things. I don't know if the neighbour's banging on the next wall or if that's a sound in my head. Probably is the neighbour. He's probably mad because I've been talking until 1 a.m. But anyway, let me know what your opinions are. I'm going to put the tier in down below. Hopefully this one was different enough and stood out enough, because the difference here was that I'm talking about my favourite characters, not necessarily the best characters. And there is some overlap, I will admit. But yeah, these are my favourite characters. Probably in about this order, right? So, yeah. Maybe I should have done it differently. Oh well. I can use this in the future as well to do a proper video. Oh, I'm yawning now. That means I have to go.